Desperate, the boy cried help through tears, pleading with the retreating crowd for magic or potions to save his sister. A stranger stopped, calling magic a universal-altering art and offering to teach the boy everything they knew. In Silva, on the Sancha-Jason border, a boy has trained his sword for 6 years. They don't hunt, yet everyone masters bows and blades, making him wonder what they're really preparing for. The boy wondered why peasants lacked magic. The teacher sternly eyed young Ains, ordering him to stand strong, move faster, act energetic. The man suggested the student lacked natural weapon talent or the drive to master combat. Ains shows the teacher a strange trick, creating a tiny flame or water on his palm, but the teacher disdainfully calls battle magic useless and asks why he needs it. Coach resumes training, ordering Rossets and Bag to spar. They square up, tension peaking as they lock in. As the fight began, spectators watched in awe at the older student's skill, feeling the power and precision of their strikes. He didn't know they were wooden. In battle, he'd just burn their blades or trap their legs with earth magic. He yearned for magic studies. The teacher calls Sains and Ains to fight. Ains tells him to get ready, sure he won't lose to a weakling. Ains declared he'd fight with magic and lost. The winner wasn't happy. Others were surprised, confused why he chose magic and worried for him. He's glad for the herbs, but wishes he had magic to heal his wounds instantly. He conjured ice cubes with water magic, pressing them to his head, hoping to ease his throbbing headache and focus. He rushed home to see his mom. She welcomed him and kept cooking, filling the house with warmth. She told him to wash his hands before eating, dinner's almost ready. Ains cast a quick spell, washing his hands with glowing water and drying them with a light breeze. Father entered, eyed his son, proudly declaring he'd grown. The son, smiling, asked if he'd truly become like that. The man spotted a bump on his son's head and joked about him getting hit again, but the boy grimaced, struggling to hide the pain. Wife sternly told her husband to stop bothering the baby and wash his hands. He quickly agreed. Dad explained Mom was furious at his antics. Confused, the boy asked if he was the cause, but Dad said it was actually about that bump on her head. Lena also got a bump, sternly ordering him to wash his hands. As Ian laughed, thrilled, Dad now shared the bump. This became their daily ritual, as the boys filled their lives with wild adventures and constant family support. Ein fell asleep that evening, only to wake up the following night. A whole day vanished. The boy woke up yelling for his parents, but the room was pitch black. Seeing nothing, he crept downstairs, tripped on something and fell. The cold object he found was his mother's lifeless body. He froze in horror, unable to process the nightmare. The boy swung the door open and froze at the chaos and violence outside. People ran through ruins, desperate for help. A woman sobbed, vainly calling for her little daughter, lost in the chaos. Ross and his gang roared threats, vowing the culprits would regret this disaster. Suddenly, 2 young men died before the shocked guys. Horror engulfed the young man, thoughts tangled, unable to grasp what happened. He looked up, seeing a frightened boy fleeing the scene, darting through debris. Man chased the boy. Ains thanked God the signs escaped, but then something irreversible happened. The killer caught the teen right in front of a witness, who froze in pure horror. Ains stood stunned by the sheer scale, fear and helplessness consuming him, lost and alone in this new reality. Sensing a survivor nearby, the wizard asked why he hadn't hidden despite the danger. The man said the boy's loved ones were dying. He wouldn't flee or fight, knowing the child wouldn't beg, so he accepted his fate. The wizard noticed all the dead fought, yet couldn't grasp why this man wouldn't fight back. Ein slumped motionless, shoulders drooping, staring blankly, his face lifeless as time froze and chaos vanished. He thought the boy was a distraction, but soon realized the truth was far deeper. The killer admitted he didn't care, her fate was already decided. The killer realized this victim was too boring, lacking the pride and spirit of his past enemies. Smirking, the criminal claimed that whenever he cast lightning, his victims died in pure awe of his magic. Confession made, the attacker unleashed a deadly spell on the young man. The wizard launched an attack, pitying the boy for not fleeing like his friends. He coldly ordered the boy to end his worthless life, laughing as he enjoyed the suffering. Child cried in pain, asked for daddy. Silica told her companion the child was alive, needed help, asking him to clear debris, but he doubted, believed the child was dead. He sighed, whispering that the kid was on the brink, barely clinging to life. In 3 days at a house, the twins tugged the woman's skirt, shouting that the boy finally woke up and filling the house with joy. Stunned by the miracle and nursing boiling water burns, they turned to Silica for her next move. The woman was overjoyed when the boy finally woke up after being out for so long. Surprised, the girl asked her mom if the boy didn't understand. Her mom explained he was from Silv too. The girl explained he was in Tas, his village destroyed. He sadly knew his home was lost. The speaker revealed only the young man survived the village's disaster, and the boy quietly confirmed he knew. She revealed the accident cost the boy an arm and a leg. Boy insisted he knew. Silica asked how, and he replied he saw it all himself. He swore he saw everything, but now his right eye was blind. The woman advised leaving him alone. The daughter agreed, then asked his name. He replied in ease. Silica introduced herself and her mother Korea, then told him to wait while she grabbed breakfast. Ainz recognized it, an attack spell, just what he wanted. He thought he needed special words but assumed there was another way. To test his assumption, he tried recreating the man's lightning. He saw nothing happen, which was wrong since water magic came easily, so he resolved to thoroughly study this new magic. He shaped a water sphere and blasted the man. It worked. He chose fire, using the destruction to visualize the final result. He had to clearly envision the blazing flame. Ainz imagines a fire burning everything until Silica enters with hot soup. The girl screamed fire. The boy felt unbearable heat demanding it extinguished. Silica felt the intense heat, while Ainz realized visualizing the spell was the key. As that man said, it all comes down to imagination. The boy was hooked. Silica snapped and denied it, then shut down his offer to teach her magic. She noted he just woke up, already doing magic, then asked if he thought of home, family, friends, and if it didn't bother him. 12-year-old Silica took in the 6-year-old as her little brother, and her parents let him stay. She knew this child was broken. He lost a leg, an arm, an eye, and his heart bled. Found barely alive, she healed his emotional scars. 2 days later, the guys stepped out, and one sneered at the sight of another foreigner. Children demanded the stranger leave their village. Silica stopped their stone throwing. Her anger made the bullies hide. His sister asked if he was okay, but he just said Ms. Korea bundled him up for the cold. She clarified she meant his bullies, but he insisted nothing happened. He ignored their antics, leaving the girl to wonder about his indifference until they arrived. The boys reached a massive lone tree in an endless field. The sister asked to leave him here. Ainz thanked the girl. She, as always, waited here while he trained. Silica remembered his request for a quiet magic spot, so they visit daily, though his choice shocked her at first. She'd grown used to the routine. Her brother thanked her and ended practice. Silica brushed off his thanks just as the boys spotted a massive crowd nearby. Their father called. Anxious, the girl asked what happened. He explained kids entered the forest and hadn't returned. Silica wondered why they went at night. The monsters are real. Evan rallies the village to find the missing kids and sends his children home to gear up. Ainz asks the man to let Silica go with him, saying he can get home alone. Evan apologized, asking Silica to follow. She told him to wait until they got home. He then wondered if forest animals used magic. Ainz activated the spell. Storm can't stop it thanks to acceleration. The boy bolted ahead, leaving the kids and strollers stunned as he vanished. Entering the forest, Ainz realized it was his first time, so he needed to be extra careful. Blinded by the dark, he cast a spell for perfect senses and triggered search mode. Sensing big trouble, Ainz tried water magic, apologized to the beast for losing control, and activated Water Blade. Enraged by the audacity, the enemy let out a massive roar. Father begged daughter finish the monster, he can't hold it. He admitted the fight was brutal, but his teammate cheered for their excellent work. Evan knew this was just the start, they had to go deeper. Silica worried about Ainz, regretting leaving him alone in the dangerous forest while her brother laughed fighting monsters. Laughing, he crushed his enemies, but felt deep regret knowing the magic hid his losses. Then he spotted a nearby cabin. Approaching the house, no life stirred. Even monsters avoided this strange place. Ainz sensed magic in the cabin. Even monsters were too afraid to approach. Inside, the hooligans were confused by residents thinking a disabled person arrived, and the young man was glad they saw nothing. Leaving this mysterious land was hard, but he'd be back. He ordered the terrified kids to get up and head for the village. Forest full of monsters, escape seemed impossible, so Ainz, stating he risked his life to find them, calmly ordered them back. The kids thought the lifeguard was crazy until the monsters appeared. They screamed that he'd doomed them all, but the young man ordered them to be quiet. Anne unleashes ice hell, freezing the beast into an immobile ice statue. The kids gaped in shock as a massive ice shell suddenly appeared, encasing them in a wall of frost. Suddenly, the young man defeated the monsters, and the children looked at the hero with joyful relief, faces lighting up as they jumped, celebrating the catastrophe's end. Evan patted his son's head, but his sister slapped him for the dangerous joke. Villagers celebrated their rescue, then lined up before their savior. The children rejoiced he saved them. Everyone realized the danger, apologizing for their rudeness and distrust. The villagers bowed in shame, begging for forgiveness for ever calling him a weak and useless stranger. Ainz said no apologies. He was in the forest for magic study, not to save them. His choice made thanks and apologies unneeded. His sister called him a pro for guilt-tripping everyone with one word, while he stood there completely clueless. She was shocked by his kindness, but her brother called it a lie. Silica told him not to be shy, she saw everything. Evan was relieved the crowd settled and the teasing finally stopped. The man said the boy was now part of their family. The wizard felt an unusual warmth envelop his chest. It was new and pleasant, but he didn't understand its meaning. He rushed to the forest cabin, desperate to master the ancient magic books he'd discovered. Ainz vowed to fix his mistake of selling the village and help it, even with slim hope stunning his sister. Said that he wants to correct his past mistake when he sold the village, vowed. The villagers loved his thirst for knowledge, expecting nothing less from a boy obsessed with the unknown. Silva smiled, telling her brother to move forward. It's his character, though they'd feel sad without him. Their father backed her, saying he must follow his desires. They'd explain it all later. The man told Ainz to call or visit if trouble hits. The kids begged to follow, but the adults reminded them the forest was strictly off-limits. The boy thanked the villagers for their support, deeply touched by their kindness. In a quiet forest cabin, a young man constantly prepped his gear, waiting for his epic journey to begin. He knew Ainz, Silva's the one-eyed, one-armed, one-legged master of 3 elements. His unique abilities demanded respect. The boy saw himself as a master magician. Smiling, he realized he hadn't left his forest retreat in ages, lost in ancient sciences and forgotten arts, forgetting the world. The vibe was surreal. Ainz was stunned to see the village had transformed beyond recognition. Looking up, he spotted a girl's silhouette frozen in the shadowy branches near the familiar tree. A guy asked what she was up to. The interlocutor raised an eyebrow, asking if he hadn't noticed she was engrossed in a magic book. She answered, recalling a magic book was just a copy. She found it strange he didn't know, so she decided he wasn't local. Ainz told her to wait, he knows this place. Ask Silva or Evan. The girls mocked him, saying if he's really a local, he'd know which old friends left long ago. Boy asks if Evan's the elder. Girl corrects, it's no village but Sancha's northern sacred place for seals which she guards nightly. The knights roared, furious he dared invade their sacred sanctuary. Confused, Ainz tried to explain his confusion, then cast a time-slow spell to buy time. She knew he was a wizard with unique magic, but warned his spells were useless against her sword at this range. He told her she wouldn't win. He pointed out her sword fell long ago, left far behind. Stunned by his trick, she couldn't believe it. Ainz suggested they talk calmly. She realized she'd let her guard down. The knightess shrugged off worry, ready to fight barehanded, while the young man, seeing her rage, surrendered and fled, regretting Tass's demise. She stopped him, shocked he knew about the former Tas village. Ainz remembers this village. Before the forest, he lived here among kind people who treated him like family. Knight paused, studied the boy like a memory, and hesitantly asked his name. Ainz was a sylph-turned-wizard, and the girl's mind raced as she connected the dots. He worriedly asked if she was okay, and blushing, she said she was fine. The woman asked him to follow, but he refused. She just tried to kill him, so why trust her? She apologized, stressing their next talk was vital. Sophia, a silver knight of Een, ordered him to meet her commander, but the boy refused, fearing she'd snap and attack him again. Knight begged him to stop, claiming misunderstanding and no deception, but he still refused, so she offered free food. Ainz was impressed by the city, he'd never seen anything like it. Sophia dragged him by the collar as he begged to explore, promising a tour later. They had to see the commander now. He couldn't wait, picturing the feast made just for him. A warm meal was exactly what he needed. He gaped at the massive buildings and gates as the knight relentlessly beckoned. A passerby stared, he squirmed, but Sophia reassured him and they entered the commander's office. Tinsley's husband returned, asking the girl what happened. He spots a guy nearby and calls to report the gas. He ordered Gauss their best wine. Thrilled, Sophia finally found a fiancé, but she quickly told her boss it was just a misunderstanding. He tells her not to be shy about her feelings, but she denies it, swearing she'd never bring a lover here. Manager admitted his mistake, eyeing the strange guest as his subordinate urged, act first. Sophia ordered a luxury breakfast with fancy desserts and coffee to stun their guest. He confessed his love for coffee. The knight welcomed it, but the commander couldn't interpret his words. Seeing the generous feast, the guest craved a good meal. Savoring the food, the commander heard how the boy by the tree saved the village and made his final choice. The girl admitted she had no proof, but the manager didn't care and promised to verify the story himself. The man shoved the massive table, revealing a heavy metal hatch. The manager confirmed his subordinate's assumption with the beginning book. The beginning details 2,000-year-old events of Mage Ainz, whose strong magic means few can read it. Yet this book founded Ainz City and its sacred Silver Knights. As 6 a 7 sin 8, cut 3 words perfect. Wait, he believed carrying the artifact was a sin. He won. The leader ordered Sophia to silence everything she saw, never telling outsiders. She agreed to protect the secrets. Ainz cautiously asked if he knew the famous book. He refused, curious what lay ahead. He asked to read the book. The manager confirmed he could read it, but warned it was tough for anyone to hold, then handed it over. Reading the book, the truth hit him. He was shocked he was fine when he could barely turn a page. It's Anes's old diary. Everyone froze, eyes wide with shock. He recorded helpful info but dropped the plan, then saw the inscription silicon start sparking his memories. He pointed to the record, proving his name was right there. The commander stared bewildered, his gaze frozen silent. It read Ains Silvatas, the guest was their order's legendary founder. They asked if he was Ains, he confirmed, but the name was slightly off. S. Silvetes, a name blending his home Sylvan Tass where he grew up, seeing her spelling error he fixes it. Actually, let's stick to the most direct version. Sophia knelt, pledging her body and sword to Lord Ains, ready to die for him. Knight offered her oath, he demanded it stop, and the commander froze. He asked for space while she thanked him. The leader saw the guest easily open and write in the book. The magic surged, locking the pages tight. There was no doubt this was the book's true owner. He knew this was legendary white-haired wizard Ains, who survived the forest for 2,000 years. Shaken by the guest's short stay, he asked why the wizard was suddenly ditching his peaceful forest home. Ains smiled, explaining nothing unusual happened in the forest. He simply stayed longer, fascinated by magic. The boy tells the shocked leader he just got lost in magic books. He returns the book, thanks him for the meal, and the man brushes it off. The young man came from the forest to travel and asked where Evan and Silco were. The leader panicked, unsure how to tell the guest Evan and Silica left 2,000 years ago as he scrambled for a plan. The commander changed the subject, promising to provide whatever he needed. Ains smiled, thanked, ready to move on, curious where to go next. Sophia suggested Kirk Kingdom for its huge magic academy, but he didn't know which kingdom. She says top wizards train there. The boy regrets not joining sooner, but the knight doubts he'll learn anything. The leader approached the wizard to prepare for their journey, introducing Sophia as their proud guide, beaming to serve her new hero. The commander credited this book for their wealth and wizards, sure the knight would help him. Ains ended, thanking for help. Sophia's eyes sparkled with excitement as she shouted she couldn't wait another second. The wizard realized magic developed all this time, just like culture. He was hooked, and the boys ventured into the endless unknown. Ains turned to Sophia, eager to hear more about the unique and diverse kingdom of Kirk. She proudly declared that's why they're Silver Knights, honoring her glorious order. She said the Silver Knights were mages, valued for monster hunts and country conflicts thanks to white-haired Ains Sama. The boy doubted what he heard, cautiously asking the girl again for the man's name. Eyes sparkling with curiosity, the hero leaned in and asked who this legendary figure was. The girl froze, surprised, lips parted, brows shot up, processing the question. Sophia remembered him as the god-tier wizard Ains called amazing. She was shocked he didn't understand his own reputation, but the commander swore her to secrecy. The gentleman sought a meeting, certain of new magic lessons, but the knight refused, calling it impossible because of him. He thought she'd say he wasn't worthy. Her real problems returned and she disliked him again. Switching topics, she asked why Ains didn't understand why he couldn't meet the great wizard. Sophia curiously asked, if he's a wizard, why carry a sword he clearly can't use? She mused, if the most powerful mage wields a weapon, the sword itself must hold secrets, and her mind raced, fantasizing about its hidden properties and artifacts. He chuckled and tilted his head back, agreeing with an ironic smirk. He clearly loved their game, a charming smile lighting up his face. He paused, then inspired, called the sword's connected movements pure magic. Sophia suggested the sword movements were magic. The young man agreed, but joked it was just an ordinary sword. Suddenly, a loud low roar ripped through the forest. The menacing sound made their hair stand on end as their hearts hammered with pure panic. The knight saw a massive armored grizzly, told the gentleman to stay back, offering to distract it for his magic attack, but he reassured her. The boy challenged the roaring beast at the forest edge, eyes glowing with excitement for the fight. Sophia screamed in despair that cheap weapons couldn't beat the enemy, fear filling her voice and eyes. The massive armored grizzly charged, ground trembling, but the hero stood calm, enduring the threat. He spoke softly with a sly smirk, sounding philosophical. Then he asked a weird question, what did she think he only associated with food? With a slight finger twitch, he unleashed a massive spell. The bear shot skyward, light as a wind-torn feather, its massive body gliding over the trees. Muscles tensed one last time, then went limp under the spell. Sophia froze, eyes wide at the miracle. This was beyond reality. Shaking with awe and fear, she finally realized the truth. Ains saw her magic strengthen body and sword, so he mirrored it, energy bursting from his prosthetic, claiming it was just mana manipulation, not true magic. The young man surprised knew no bounds. The monster survived his attack. Sophia broke the silence, warning that the wounded beast was now even more vicious, but her partner just stood there feeling helpless. Pained and furious, the armored grizzly roared, shattering the forest's silence as its body instantly morphed into muscle and claw, ready to destroy. Blending magic and fencing, Ains moved gracefully to trigger Shadow Actor. One swift blade strike severed the bear's head. The impact shook the ground, a rumble spreading as the blade's gleam dimmed. The monster toppled like a giant statue. Sophia watched the fight wide-eyed, shocked and amazed. She'd never seen such weapon skill. Ains explains you need basic sword skills or the spell fails. One of the blades snapped in half in the man's hand. He instantly froze, eyes wide. The blade was failing, so he needed a new one fast. Sophia was shocked. He tossed it aside. No real swordsman would do that. Ains showed her a magic sword hybrid and asked for her take. She thanked him for the amazing spell, but he told her to relax, making her ask if he was okay. Suddenly, another girl rushed to help, explaining she heard an armored grizzly's roar, but she arrived too late. Seeing the massive monster dead, she froze as shock turned to relief. Sophia's reaction distracted Ains, making him miss the savior's arrival. He replied they defeated the monster, but his sword broke. A girl sat nearby, staring at the massive bear in awe of its thick, powerful hide. She realized a sword-piercing grizzly armor was a masterwork. Ains smiled. It was the cheapest sword for kids training, not warriors. It stunned the girls. One gaped, wordless, the other stared, bewildered, unsure. The rescuer asked if a toy sword killed the grizzly, then froze seeing the boy's mangled hand and leg. Ains stops her, claiming she isn't suspicious. He asks Sophia to agree, but she plays dumb, and Ains tells her to quit the sarcasm. The savior accepted the situation, convincing himself this charming, open guy wasn't a criminal. She said it was time to handle her own business, her quiet confidence signaling the visit was over. Ains approved, telling Sophia it was time to go. Sophia asked her master about the grizzly. The knight suggested turning the bear into armor instead of wasting it, and the boy agreed. He approached the massive grizzly carcass. Mission accomplished, smiling, eyes burning with success, then waved his hand, summoning a magical portal to transport his prize. The giant bear dissolved into the boy's hand, leaving his companion frozen in shock. The rescuer couldn't find him, but Ains explained he put him in spatial storage. The girl screamed, shocked by his personal space, calling him super rich. He's dirt poor and built everything alone, leaving her stunned. She realized he was a true magician. Ains smiled, confirming her guess. Her face flushed red with realization, burning with excitement and embarrassment. She's stunned to meet a wizard here. He senses danger, demanding quick help. Raka Brandy claims she's a duke's daughter, but she's actually hunting a gang of robbers. Sophia questioned how knights fell to easily beaten bandits, while Rieka spotted a powerful foe among them, then ran for help. Rushing to Kirk Kingdom, the knight asks about the bandit and learns he's actually a wizard. The boy thought, suddenly intrigued. Reika has magic too, but the enemy used spells she'd never seen. He froze, an inner voice calling. Thoughts flashed, shifting his mood from lighthearted to serious. His friendly smile vanished, replaced by a stern gaze of concern and anxiety. He returned to Sophia, and seeing his look, she vowed to follow him anywhere. Rieko was glad they would help her fight the bandits. He shouted his name and demanded the wizard's location, ready for battle. Setting off, Riker realized her companion was Sophia, a famous silver knight. She confirmed it while another felt lucky to meet them. Ains asked if she was famous, and they nodded. Rieka explained she's a knight protecting Great Wizard Ains's sacred lands and a wonderful person. Sophia couldn't hold back, wanting to reveal Ains is the Great Wizard. The assistant froze, catching a faint sound. The group lost all awareness of their surroundings. Forest rustling died, replaced by a chilling noise. The boys froze, eyes narrowing. The source was right on top of them. The boy eyed Rieko and asked about the wizard's magic, hiding his anxiety while searching for a tactical edge. She saw elemental orbs, but a strange spell stole her voice and sight. If this spell hits, they'll paralyze, unable to fight, move, or use magic. Terrifying. Terror gripped her as she gasped for air, sweat pouring while she imagined herself a frozen statue, defenseless against the coming death. Ains frowned at the dire situation. He'd never faced such magic, feeling vulnerable, knowing losing body and voice control meant losing the fight. Rieka asked about healing magic. He only knew the basics, but she was thrilled. The girl reported medicinal herbs ran low as injuries mounted. She saw her companions shocked. Ain't turned serious before facing the unknown. With that same creepy look, Team turned to see a boy screaming for help. Voice trembling, he begged for his sister's life as she wept, hoping for rescue. The team found a girl covered in deep wounds, her clothes shredded and skin scorched. Rieka noticed the wound was too deep, unsure if the healing potion would help. Healing magic helps, but she needs to save strength for the wizard fight. His brother begged to learn healing, but Ains refused because the boy has zero magic. He swore he wouldn't turn away from it. The wizard passed years of research and secret knowledge to the boy. Young man thanked him. Khan ordered the team forward, handing them his special healing potions, adding he'd soon catch up. He relied on Sophia, and she was thrilled to help their cause. Knight commanded Reika forward, but Reika paused, needing answers, while Ains suggested training. The boy asked if he was a wizard. He said no, but he knew some magic and used it for fun. The boy asked the difference between magic and sorcery. Ains explained magic changes nature's laws with magical energy, so mana is vital. More mana at birth makes a stronger mage, but the boy had almost none. He explains that magic breaks universal laws using unnatural forces from beyond their world. The teacher knew these results took insane willpower. Master warns practicing witchcraft costs dearly. The boy asks if it's a trade, and Aints confirms he has to pay up. The wizard said if he lacked magic and his sister was dying, he demanded payment for help, then asked his name. The boy replied Rit. The teacher smiled at his name, calling it beautiful and melodic. Salvatus Ein introduced himself, offering his magic knowledge. He unleashed his right hand's miracle spell. Rit watched in awe and admiration. Sophia smelled blood, the sharp stench triggering instant dread. She'd deal with the wizard, Mrs. Rocca would tend the wounded, and the girl agreed. Clutching the herb pouch, she realized there wasn't even enough for basic first aid. Reika cast aside her doubts and followed her companion. The girls found a wide clearing packed with people. Sophia asked magic. She realized it, everyone stood frozen and completely lost. The air was heavy and suffocating, a poisonous cloud of death hung over them. Sophia realized the spell was no joke and followed the girl's lead. Rieka pointed at the tall man in a black cloak in battle and said he was a wizard. The knight finished him fast. Cutthroats froze, recognizing the brave girl who fought them before. They swore she wasn't escaping, and one guy decided to have some fun first. Her face furious, jaw clenched, the girl exploded at their mockery and threats, accusing men of betrayal and decay. The knight beheaded both bandits with one swift swing. Rieka praised her companion, a fencing master. Her strikes were elegantly deadly, movements pulsed with strength and precision. Girl urged her friend to help the wounded, stressing their suffering and immediate action. Reika agreed, then headed towards the unfortunate's moans. She easily crushed the bandits, stunned the powerful wizard didn't step in. Surprised by the strange knight, the wizard introduced himself as Corbury. He just hates swordsmen. He unleashes fire spears. Magic spears shot forward, ready to pierce the girl with bursts of flame. Sophia parried the strike, deflecting the enchanted spears. The knight smirked, eyes glowing with pride in his swordsmanship. Corbury realized it was true anti-magic and felt an unexpected chill. Sophia mocked the wizard, asking if that was his limit. The knightess challenged the enemy while Reika gave potions to the wounded, telling them to hold on. Their thanks caught her off guard. Amazed, she stared at the countless healing elixirs Ains gave her, never seeing so many, filled with respect and gratitude. Rieka found hidden extra space in the bag, a real treasure. She wondered who the mysterious young man was. The warriors questioned the potion. They spread the word, utterly shocked. Wounds gone, warriors healed, a true miracle. Rake realized these were top-tier potions. Shocked that Einstein brewed them himself, she ordered her team to charge. Query unleashed powerful silent magic. Air crackled as an invisible force poised for catastrophe. He launched fire spears at Sophia, the arrows racing at deadly speeds. One hit would turn her to ash. She called it pointless, more copies won't change a thing. The wizard mocked her claim with a twisted grin, laughing as if magic would soon crush her confidence. He mocked her, calling her a young, insolent person. Sophia denied this, adding she's part of the Order of Silver Knights. Bari, shocked, never expected a real knight, called her an immortal witch, and accused her of giving him a fake he foolishly trusted. Knight asked if he served the Eternal Sky Cult. He confirmed it, ready to unleash magic inherited from the white-haired Inza. The wizard triggers the spell. The alchemist turns sand to gold, white flips to black as darkness devours the light. Sophia didn't recognize the spell and rushed to stop him. The man cast a powerful spell, unmoving. Her legs buckled and her heart raced with sudden terror. Sophia froze, eyes wide, face pale, breathing quickened, mind reeling from the shock. She strained to maintain her balance, battling sudden panic. Without rising, Corbury chants a spell, crushing everyone into the ground with a massive barrier. Sophia was stunned, unable to process what happened. Her body turned to stone, refusing to move. A mysterious force crushed her muscles, leaving her paralyzed and panicked. The wizard cast a spell forbidding swords, declaring this the end. The fiery spear's curse erupted, launching projectiles that shredded the girl with hundreds of strikes. The man ordered the knight to know his place and bow to his power. Suddenly a battle cry rang out, and Rieka appeared next to the loyal squad. Corbury stared at the survivors in shock. Even with horrific wounds, the army was still ready to fight. Rael told the assistant to chug the potion fast, or the next hit would be her last. Sophia grabs the vessel, unscrews the lid, gulps the thick liquid, barely tasting it. The potion instantly spreads, restoring strength and healing deep wounds. She watched in shock as her deep wounds healed instantly, leaving barely a mark. Her skin smoothed, the bleeding stopped, and the pain turned into a pleasant warmth. Rael announced Corbury's end. His dark crimes cease today, he'll harm no one. Bewildered, the wizard stared at his enemy's miraculously healed wounds, baffled by the endless elixirs and why his attacks hadn't killed anyone. The crab ordered wizards to blast the enemy, shield the knights, and block all escape routes. Corber mocked the hero's pathetic struggle to gain an advantage. Spell activated, enemies close in. Warriors froze, gripped by icy terror, watching disaster unfold. They fought the magic, clinging to sanity, begging each other to remember their alliance and break the curse. The spell instantly turned creatures into bloodthirsty monsters, tearing each other apart as chaos consumed the world. Sophia slammed the enemy as a heartless monster, using dark magic to divide friends and destroy trust. Corberry scanned the enemies and saw their healing potions were almost gone. He was worried since he needed those elixirs to stay in the fight. He unleashes fire spears. Ainz transferred his knowledge into the boy's mind, giving him every detail he needed. The wizard warned transferring knowledge would hurt, then gently asked for patience. Eyes locked, he braved the brutal knowledge transfer to save his sister. Ainz began the ritual, breathing deep and focusing, his calm tone revealing confidence for the task. Agony twisted his face as the pressure crushed every cell, but he gritted his teeth and pushed through the fear. Ainz reported ready and asked Rit what's next. He forced his eyes open, his gaze sharpening with newfound wisdom and peace. The young mage focused, chanting an ancient spell, evil for good. Energy gathered around him, forming a silvery aura enveloping his body in shimmering threads. Ainz stared in shock, clearly impressed by the result. Rit approached his unconscious sister and reached for her hair. Afraid to disturb his sister's peace, he gently ran a finger along her cheek. His deep wounds closed instantly as the new magic absorbed into his cells, leaving only fresh skin. Rit joyfully announced his success and everything's fine now. Ainz thanked his student for the original move after seeing him drain the surrounding mana. The boys didn't understand the wizard, doubting their power. The air shifts as a nervous hum rings out. Rit stood eyes wide as silence consumed him, movement, sounds, wind froze. Realizing time stopped, he felt shocked and terrified by the unknown. A mysterious voice accused him of breaking universal laws. He declared Ritz's fate sealed, he's forbidden to harm others. Boy in shock, Ainz asked if he saw a vision. The boy agreed, explaining he was forbidden from harming others, but the wizard reminded him that a wizard's oath is a massive responsibility. The magician ordered the student to stay quiet and keep the secret. Furious, the girls felt magic grip them, rooting their legs and freezing their arms. All escape attempts failed. Bored, the player quits. Sophia saw enemies used magic stones. With the wizard's power low, she asked about his stock. Rika declared victory near, inspiring quick success. Corver mocked the warriors, calling their victory impossible. He knew their temporary advantage was futile, his strength would crush them. Corbar dropped a bombshell. The girls stared at the page, bewildered. You know where this page was ripped from? Corbar explained it was a single page torn from the original book, and he did everything to retrieve it. Fear saw their dire state. The wizard vowed their death, his magic surging. He unleashed fire spears. Ainz apologized, his girls happy to see him. Corberry asked who he was, wanna die too. He's Ainz, and he warns them not to threaten him. The magician found it rude. Annoyed, he waved his hand and shattered the seals, freeing the warriors as they regained their senses. The man stood, chin lowered, eyes wide, paralyzed by fear and disbelief. Blood pounded in his ears, his mind rejected reality. Sophia beamed at Ian, seeing the perfect hero, while a stunned Rika realized the world's limits had just shattered. Corberry's shocked his opponent blocked his magic, utterly confused. Are you a wizard? How'd you stop that spell? He demanded. Ainz claims he's a sorcerer, not a wizard. The man realizes they share the same powers. Remembering Reika was a wizard too, the boy was hyped to finally meet his match. Corberry froze at the confession, his eyes wide, heart pounding, sweat beating on his face. Ainz dared his enemy show true strength. Corberry called him a psycho and told him to back off. The young man just wanted to show his magic, but the other man saw no point, thinking the girl was all brawn, no brains, and wouldn't get it. Ainz smiled, warning him to respect Sophia after he called everyone in Ainz hillbillies. The young man chose the forest to study magic. Grinning with anxious rage, Corberry triggered the spell. He activated the spell, the alchemist turned sand to gold, white became black, darkness consumed light, and he declared the enemy controlled. Ainz questioned if he actually believed it was a spell. Corberry unleashes the spell, approach forbidden. The wizard froze, hitting an invisible barrier. Her eyes widened as resistance surged through her. The sorcerer claimed his magic was invincible, and now the young man couldn't approach him a single step. Ainz said turning sand to gold changes the law, white means reaction like white becomes black, and light symbolizes people. The wizard recognized this as true sorcery. Froze's merchant, shocked by what he heard, showed disbelief and surprise. Sophia froze in shock, eyes wide, as Ricasat burned with jealous admiration. The sorcerer asked if his opponent dared call his magic witchcraft. Ainz confirmed it was real, not magic. The man asked if he considers himself a magician, adding he knows magic, not complex spells. Ainz was disappointed his enemy didn't know high-level spells. I realized he was fake. Apologizing to Reika, he told Sophia they were leaving. The master, unable to beat the knight, retreated, disappointing Ain, who'd hoped for a great wizard but found him talentless. He saw the enemy was just a magician and lost interest. The traitor stood, eyes wide and speechless from shock. He screamed that anyone underestimating him would die, instantly unleashing a new spell to prove his power. He summoned fire spears. Aints instantly threw up a magic barrier. A crystal bell filled the air, fiery arrows stopped hanging midair. The merchant leaped up screaming, staring at the frozen arrows as panic scrambled his thoughts. Ainz called it a simple spell, then offered to show his other tricks. He triggers the spell, turning sand to gold and white to black. Darkness swallows the light, so he adds another. Magic items are forbidden, so he starts small. Third, Magic's Band. Korbar, shocked, tried 3 times to cast fire arrows, but they wouldn't work. Ainz explained the enemy stopped training to rely on one spell, failing to even master forbidden magic. He cast the Forbidden Breath spell, leaving Korbari terrified. As Korbari writhed in pain, the warriors watched in shock and disbelief. Ain's spell restored breath, the enemy immediately coughed and spit. She screams at her people to kill him, 10x-ing the bounty as the crowd freezes in shock. They shout to kill him, several attacking at once. Grinning, he tells his enemies they must watch him cast one insane spell. His divine hand breaks all limits. He lifts his glowing hand, foes freeze, then moves and clenches a fist. He drops enemies from a distance, leaving them bleeding out as they collapse. The boy faces defeated enemies, everyone watches stunned. Horrified, his enemy screams, demanding to know who this man is and what magic he's using. The boy calmly explains how desire bends nature and shatters reality, mastering the universe while standing perfectly still. Smiling, he extends his hand, declares to his enemies, this is strength and magic. The grounded enemy crawls back in horror, begging the boy to stop. Ain warns that his cult ties make him too valuable to kill without an interrogation. The boy looks around unhappily, a pity, but this is a magic duel. Only one can survive. He grabs the trembling enemy by the hair while the girls watch in silence. Stopped again, Ainz turns to find a surprised girl. Another woman asks why they aren't taking him to the capital as a prisoner, since Reika's influence can get them into the academy. She asks Reika if it's true. The girl smiles, confident family makes it easy. They convince the scientist and he calmly agrees. Facing his terrified enemy, he leaves the rest to Ritza. Calmly, a man tells another, no questions, lie down then get up. 2 carts pass by as someone realizes they'll have to walk the rest of the way. Everyone thanks Rita. She smiles, saying it's no problem and promises a wonderful dinner at the estate. Ainz loves the meal since she and Sophia can't cook. She asks why he shared that, then he sits down, feeling wonderful. Ainz asks the girl how she learned this without a boyfriend. The girl freezes, but Rika understands, calling it amazing. She insists she can cook, but when Reika doubts her, she admits sword training leaves no time for the kitchen. Rika smirks, wondering why she can't cook and if she's mocking him. Sophia snaps that a kitchen knife is just another blade. As a sword master, she can handle it, but Ainz begs her to chill before her strength destroys the kitchen. Sophia doesn't get why Ainz is so strict. Reika told him he's a great magician, one look confirmed it. He accepts the praise while Rika demands to know if Korbari used real magic and what it's truly capable of. Ainz smiles, telling the girl she's right, it wasn't magic. Sorcery changes nature's laws. The girl understands she studied magic, so she didn't know sorcery. Shocked she isn't a knight, the boy questions her. Reika smiles, revealing she's a sword-wielding novice sorceress prepping for her exam. Ainz thinks they're headed to the Magic Academy. Her marquis status guarantees easy entry. He knew the nobles would fail, but she hates flaunting her rank and tells him to stop. He brushes her shoulder and freezes. She remembers something and turns back, but he stays silent. Girl asks Ainz about the boy and his sister. She remembers them. He closes his eyes, assures the girl they're fine, and she sighs in relief. She asks if he taught him healing magic, but he denies it. Lacking magic, he taught him the craft instead, shocking everyone. He claims his evil served good stole magic to heal. Rit shocked him, and he awaits their next meeting. The girl wonders how a kid mastered magic. A powerful mage sits before them, yet the coachman's news of Kirk's arrival still surprises everyone. At the gate, the driver asks for papers. The girl smiles, but Ainz admits he has nothing. She tells him not to worry, he can just say he lost it in battle. It's the Brandy family's team, no one dares search. The gates swing open, guards clear the carriage to pass, and the coachman thanks them. Ainz smiled, no problems, he thinks nobles can do anything, then something appeared. The carriage races toward the city, past towering buildings and massive crowds. The crowd whispers while one person stares as the man in the spotlight reveals his secret. MC exits carriage surprised as a cold girl announces their arrival. They're welcomed in Kirk's great kingdom, a castle stands central. At the massive mansion, someone greets the carriage and calls the girl madam. Girl tells Riss she's finally home, her guests stand behind her. She orders dinner for them, servants agree. Stunned by the massive scale, he asks if this is her home. She nods, confirming it's a Brandy family estate. The kingdom's nobles build massive estates, ignoring the people. The girl warns, without their help they'd face arrest for insulting an aristocrat. He drools over the massive feast and wine waiting on the table. They eye the many dishes, asking the girl if they can eat, but she tells them to wait. The host hasn't arrived yet when suddenly a sound rings out. A mustached man bursts in, asking if Rika's hurt. She calmly tells her father she's fine and he's overjoyed. News of the enemy attack bewildered him. He hugged his daughter and wept, as the servant reminded Kansas he was before guests. He finally settles down as Reika explains they saved her, healed the tribe with potions, and crushed the sorcerer. She asks to introduce him, pointing to Aints, a powerful wizard glad to meet him. Beside him stands Sophia, a silver knight honored to meet him and loyal to Lord Aints. Surprised she heard him, the man thanks them for saving his daughter. Postpone talks for later, for now enjoy the food. They thank him and dig in. MC calls the food luxurious, apologizing for his one-handed manners, but the man tells him not to worry. Reika asks Einstein why he doesn't hide his right hand. Einstein says it's magic, no need to hide it, it made their feast. He summons the divine hand. Shocked by the result, he takes a curious bite of the dish. The main character in tears calls it bliss. The girl laughs, a man notices something. The man asks about the hand, and Sophia realizes it's just one of Lord Ainsley's spells. He calls this magic unforgettable, like the immortal witches. He asks Ains if magic saved the girl. Ains confirms and she calls it amazing. Girl struggles to explain, MC needs more details, but it was awesome. He asks if Corbury was their target. She thanks them for the kill, his plate is empty. He invites them to meet the king at the castle tomorrow, but the MC questions him again. MC refuses to meet, citing the man's lack of royal manners, but the man insists he'll join. No worries tonight, just rest. They thank him for the food. The man sends servants to take guests to their rooms, it's night. The MC sighs after a wild day, while Ain't soaks in the bath, stunned by the village's massive transformation. Boy rests, wonders where Evan and Celica are. Stirring his tea, he recalls Sophia was Ains's maid and ignores his daughter's questions. He claims Silver Knights only serve the most powerful white-haired mage Aints, but he's long dead. His body was never found, and his daughter asks if these are the same Ains. Too early to tell, talk to Ains, then confirm. He spots an ink stain and magically washes it away, glad he noticed just as someone calls out to him. He's surprised Reika's in a luxurious dress. She asks how he feels. Anna smiles, tells her it suits her, she looks like a forest fairy. She adds he's flattering, the guy realizes Silica taught him compliments, and Sophia apologizes for her weight. She shows up in a cute outfit, and Reika compliments her look. He notices Sophia smells great, and her hair is extra shiny. The boy fixes his hair, saying he needs to comb it as the man asks if they're ready. At least removed, this simplifies it further. Original 24 words. They head straight for a massive royal castle backed by towering mountains. Armored man commands, the king is here, kneel. Ains repeats the man's words, feeling like a true knight. King orders Kansas Brandy to lift his head. The armored man repeats the command, and he finally does. Intrigued, the MC watches the king order everyone to look up. They obey once the guard repeats the command. The king sits on the throne, next to him several people, a beautiful girl right, 2 boys left. The king welcomes Kansas Brandy, reunited for the first time since the war with the Empire. He agrees it was a brutal battle. The king tells Reika she's grown since he last saw her as a child. She smiles. The king confirms Corbury's capture, sitting silently with his eyes closed. The work is praised, but MC wonders why the king's so calm. Something troubles him in this hall. Magic surges through this bizarre room. The man adds Corbury captured his daughter, stunning the king, who demands details. The king calls Ains a young man and asks his name. Ains stays silent, then the armored man reminds him. His Majesty questioned him, so he must respond. The man and Sophia whip around in shock, while the boy stands there puzzled. Ains tells Sophia to introduce him, no time to explain. He touches the floor, realizing even it's magic-soaked. The king is stunned, the armored man fumes at Ains, and while the crowd watches in shock, the king bursts out laughing. Smiling, he laughs, calling it outrageous witch-like audacity, and vows to remember Ains. He notes the man's build, relieved the king isn't angry, then gets asked if he's a silver knight. The girl smiles, confirming her name is Sophia. The king says Commander Gauss often helped him, so he doesn't understand why she's here. Ains cuts the king off and demands to inspect the hall, shocking everyone with his fearless move. An armored knight shouts insults, but the king defends Ains as a hero. The knight snaps, calling it unforgivable treason. Knight confronts the hero, but Sophia blocks him. He orders her aside, she refuses, sworn to protect her lord. King surprised she called him sir. Rieka tells Ains to stop, that's treason. Grinning, he senses a ritual's trace in the hall and gets hooked. Hat-wearing girl wonders why he called so early. The maid tells Lizzie that after calling the king a boy, the girl stood up and insisted he's still just a kid to her. Smiling, she tells the girl with the large fan not to worry. The maid urges her to hurry for the waiting crowd, but since she's forgotten the way, the maid leads her to the hall. The girl complains, demanding wine, which enrages the servant. She agrees and storms back. Lee begs her to hurry since the show's started. She keeps mocking the kids and offers a fake apology. Girl eyes the dark corridor, wondering what lurks. Sophia defends and apologizes for him as a strange energy in the room sparks his curiosity. Commander Raged said it didn't matter, he stood before the king owed loyalty. Aints pressed him. He calmly refuses, stating that swearing to the king betrays magic, so it's never happening. Commander Knight raged, insulting the man until an order stopped him. Lisa Lot faces the king, telling the commander Ains isn't their enemy. Commander tries to object, but the king tells the girl she's late. She brushes it off as being busy. The MC thanks her and triggers Divine Hand. Everyone stares stunned as his hand suddenly glows bright, terrifying all. Commander Knight and the entire room stare in total shock. He smiles, puts on a glove, and asks the girl to show her magic. Fuming, she snaps her fan shut and goes silent. Stunned, the MC asks if that's really all. Liselot asks if the king is convinced he's a true magician, and the king agrees, calling his right hand divine, now completely sure. She envisions the hand and realizes the truth as Kansas apologizes and introduces himself to Mrs. Liselot. She recognizes Kansas and notes he's aged, and he agrees it's been way too long. The girl won't tolerate this foul magic, her eyes shouldn't see them. Kansas gloomily agreed as the girl announced her exit. The king thanked her, leaving Ains totally baffled. Brandy and Ains succeeded. She only approached to test his magic, and now the king offers him a reward. Kansas wants Ains as Brandy family territory, but the king refuses. He knows Ains city is independent and just wants an alliance. Kansas asks the king to speak with the city head, who nods, granting permission. King lets him negotiate. Kansas thanks him. He apologizes to the king, all eyes snap back to him. Ains asks to inspect the throne, and the king laughs, constantly surprised by him. The girl, wine in hand, says Marquis Brandy brought an interesting child. Tell her about him. The king knows he's a wizard but not why, and Lisa Lot says his name is Ains Silvetus. She believes this is the same powerful wizard and author of the beginning, the white-haired Ains. Her thought stuns them all. One boy yells, "No way." Taught by the demon god Ains trapped in the forest, her wine glass suddenly burst into flames. He created magic itself. She warns they must prepare because a god's arrival always spells disaster. She says nothing terrifies like an awakened deity. After the audience, two horse carts cross paths on the street. The man tells the main character he's surprised, thankful the king didn't execute him, then turns gloomy, arms crossed. He grills the man, asking if he was sick, if the castle was uncomfortable, and why he snapped. Aints sees Kansas's voice masks rage. Struggling to calm down, Kansas asks Aints if he understood, and if it went well, then instantly realizes how badly it went. Reika's out cold and Sophia's eyes are shut, leaving him wondering if she's still mad. The boy needs a distraction, remembering Tass Village and how he hasn't met Silica. She invades his mind, blasting him for skipping their visit and calling his magic obsession a pathetic excuse. He panicked, realizing she berated him in his own head, calling him an idiot repeatedly. MC arrives as the maids greet Kansas with a feast ready. Everyone's exhausted, thanking the maids. She offers to prepare desserts. Kansas coughs and drops the subject, asking how long Ains is staying in the capital because he has something to tell him. The man tells Ains he can stay as long as he wants. They'll provide food. He's thrilled by the news and sincerely thanks Kansas. He explored the city, tried street food, took baths, and slept deeply. He lived a quiet life while white birds soared over his estate. Sipping coffee, he realizes things are bad because he relaxed too much. He lost track of time in paradise until the maid's icy glares reminded him he was just a parasite. He thanks the Brandies, then asks a maid for Reika. She's gone. She trained in the garden with Sophia, but the boy realized the Magic Academy entrance exam was happening right there. He bolts outside, vowing to help Reika train while the maid sees him off. In the garden center before the estate, a training fight rages. Two girls fight, attacking and blocking blows, showcasing their skills. Reika drops her sword and collapses, gasping for air as Sophia closes in. Sophia smiles, tells her friend her skills improved, but warns she needs more training for stronger foes. The maid stands behind. Reika asks again, but Sophia refuses, demanding rest. Training now is harmful. Reika tries to argue until a voice praises the match. Sophia happily wishes Anya good morning. Reika looks at him surprised and asks him if he's walking again. He refuses so he can train her, but she knows he's just dodging the maiden's stares. If he tells Rates Aints is a noble man, despite just loafing, exploring, bathing, and sleeping late, he never forgot to hone his magic, and the boy begs for mercy. The crab admires his fencing but rejects him since they're on a break. He begs for help, desperate to prove he's not just a parasite. Ian smiles and shows her again the spell he used to defeat the armored grizzly. Stunned by her proposal, he accepts anyway. He tells Reitza she's not ready to learn, but she can watch. He grabs her sword and she asks in shock what spell he's using to swing it. The hero asks how magic works. She explains, concentrate magic inside, release it, envision the spell's result, and it comes true. Ein confirms she's right. Magic power depends on energy levels and concentration. Spell texts build the foundation, releasing energy and paving magic's path. Sophia masters magic but can't cast mass spells. Learning magic splits into internal and external types shocks her. Intermagic is simple, listen to feelings, let them go. Did Sophia feel anything when her wounds healed after taking the potion? She nods, feeling something spread through her body. He tells her it's magic, she still feels it. The girl falls silent, eyes shut. Light engulfs the girl, she opens her eyes, sensing power. The MC calls it wonderful. It's an energy surge. Rieka asks Ains to wait, wondering if she'll feel it. She has magic but can't use it, and the reason's unknown. Knowing every move counts, she slips up and asks again. He stresses no mistakes. She must grasp how every muscle works or strengthening ruins her body. She'll remember this. Reika asks if Sophia is just stronger with better body control, and the MC confirms it. He tells Sophia to reinforce her body, warns he won't hold back, and tells her to step back further. She asks enough, but he orders them back, warning Ritza it's too dangerous. Both girl and maid are shocked. MC stands before Sophia as the girls watch from the side. Rieka's stunned. The girl warns his blade won't reach Sophia, but he asks if she's ready. The girl stands before him, agrees, then warns she's attacking. She lunges, but he counters, shocking Rieka. Sophia is surprised. Rieka realizes he hit her from afar. He asks if she gets it now, declaring it's his turn to move forward. Boy attacks Sophia, she calmly blocks it. He strikes again, knocking her back. Everything collapses into darkness as the girls watch in silence. Crab asks Maid if she sees them, but she says no. She knows the boss will be livid as the duo stares at the destruction in shock. Kansas glumly thanks them for plowing their garden so a town can form. That was his favorite garden. He tells them to just ask for food, but now they're stuck eating veggies and the guy realizes it's time to bail. With only 2 weeks until Reika's entrance exam, she's intensely trained with her sword. Sophia tells the girl to slow down and focus. She agrees, while Ain remains perfectly calm. Enchanting's one magic type. Don't limit your view to just that, the girl agrees. She claims mastering this makes her a real witch, but she's already out of strength. Man approaches Ains and Sophia, asks them to take the exam with Rika. They sit down and he instantly agrees. Ains wants to gauge the academy's mages, pleasing Kansas. She reassures her father she'll manage and he trusts her. He asks to join the exam and if there are any issues. Kansas tells him the deadline passed, but he can bring one servant to the exam so Rika can join him. He agrees. Rika awkwardly declares that as her servant, he must obey her. The boy offers anything, but the girl was joking. Sophia offers to serve the servant. This is impossible, and the girl refuses to leave Lord Ains. Exam day, he finally arrives, asking if this huge place is the Magic Academy. Reika stops Ains, reminding him servants can't leave their masters. MC sees the huge crowd, asking if they're all students. Riker explains anyone can take the exam, then someone greets a girl. A girl approaches with a boy in glasses following behind. Raka recognizes Kersha. Unnervous, she greets her, relieved by her arrival. The guy beside her also greets her. They haven't met in ages. He's a servant and agrees. He greets the princess, who notes it's been ages and asks if he's Ains. Boy apologizes for past behavior. She notes he put on a show. Seidel wonders, did Lyslot recognize him or is he taking an exam too? He denies it, claiming he's just Reika's servant visiting the academy, and identifies Mrs. Lays in the red dress. Kesha confirms she's her father's court sorceress and advisor. A figure greets students, drawing all eyes. Megaphone in hand, a man announces a written test and orders everyone to their assigned numbers. Hero asks, surprised, is this a magic voice amp? Why didn't I think of that? Reika asks Ains for luck before leaving. He tells her she'll manage and sends the observers to the waiting area. Seidel suggests they go. Ains agrees. A dissatisfied man complains this isn't a place to wait. The chairs are uncomfortable. He's Darius's servant from Sobai House. Settle adjusts his glasses, admitting that despite his talk of serving the Sabas family, he knows it's better not to interfere. A loudspeaker announces the written exam begins. Students sit at desks. They're writing intensely. Ains asks about the exam and Seidel says it covers math, history, and magic, making it brutal even with tutors. MC understands, asks the issue, but Seidel can't pinpoint the article's problem. He stares at the paper, trying to decode the jumbled mess. Seidel now understands this isn't ordinary paper but a magic tool. He must structure the exam before questions appear. This surprises him. He explains more magic tools, leaving the boy totally stunned. The main character can't grasp the world's drastic change in years, as a man with a loudspeaker declares it's all over. They catch a break, resting and breathing easy. Ein praises the job and Seidel tells Kurushi she did well too. Princess Kershak tells him to use her name, explain the significance and speak freely. He calls her by name, she insists no formalities, just treat her as a friend. The boy approaches. Princess Kersha, I'm Darius Sobai, the Marquis's eldest son, nice to meet you girls. Doria smiles seeing Rika, asks if she's here for the exam, but Rika angrily snaps they're the same age. He asks why she needs magic, telling her to bake bread in their wheat-famous region instead. He warns she won't survive, but she shuts him up, claiming her servants taught her everything. She names him Ains, stunning the arrogant man. He laughs, asking what she learned from the servant and that cripple. She tells him his laugh is pointless. Ains is the best knight, surprising everyone. He mocks the idea of losing to a boy missing limbs, but she warns him looks are deceiving. The main character gets interested. The manservant challenges him, someone stops them. A boy reveals they're inside the Magic Academy, shocking everyone. Recognizing the herald, all bow in silence. Fighting now shames his family, so he waits until the exam ends and agrees to judge their duel. He asks Ains how he'll respond but thanks him for the offer. Reika shoves him aside and he yields. Herald takes charge, promising to handle everything. The boy tells MC to escape, but Rieka shouts it concerns him too. Seidel offers lunch and lets Ricky pick the spot. Reika thanks the servant for the food, praising his usual excellence and the coffee. The MC wishes everyone a good appetite. He asks about sword masters and holy swordsmen. The princess explains their Galen Empire titles. The boy explains skills split into 4 levels: Master of the Sword, Holy Sword, Emperor of the Sword, and God of the Sword. Tardish is only a Master of the Sword, so he must be careful. Ains finds this too complicated. The river cheers that he'll win, but the boy tells him to forget it. Drinking coffee, he says he'll soon take the practical exam too. The organizer welcomes them to the exam site. You'll be graded individually, so step forward when called. Everyone fires off their spells, some succeed, others fail. MC sees nothing special. His friend laughs, agreeing that's exactly why they want the academy, he's certain. The man studies Reika's power, knowing she'll crush everyone. Next up, the Brandy River. She steps forward to ignite a water balloon. A spectator yells for a flower, but this is her calling. She begins. The girl silently conjures a fireball, shocking everyone as no one heard the incantation. They're stunned by this silent magic and its bizarre power. Examiners gape in shock as Rick reveals the water sphere. She summons water with silent magic again and the crowd loses it. Examiners asked about intermediate magic like fire spear. She agreed. Eyes shut, she focuses and chants a quick spell. Everyone's stunned. A shortened spell and intermediate technique is academy graduate level. She summons a fire spear, shocking everyone again as she realizes Aintz's magic is real. Glasses guy is stunned while the MC watches in heavy silence. Girl stands confidently as people argue if it was mid-level magic, but it's a silent spell. Glasses boy amazed asks Ains if he taught her. She confirms he taught her today. Judges ask if she'll master high-level magic, and she happily says yes. She apologizes to the judges for not taking advantage. Confused judges demand she try, but she refuses. She isn't ready and lacks control. They understand and ask for her favorite spell, but one judge eyes her doubtfully. River silently unleashes triple fire spears, shocking everyone. Princess joyfully tells Reitza it's incredible, looks at the main character. She's convinced Ains is a master wizard for teaching her, while he's baffled by the princess's stare. After the practical exam, a fencing test followed, and judges took notes. The exam drags until dark, results drop soon, and everyone clears out. The main character fumed, sensing a problem. Ains and Tarish clash with wooden swords. Magic is banned, and surrender or knockout means defeat. Killing is forbidden, he asks if they understand. Dark-haired guy confirms. The leader orders them to pick a sword, and the boy steps up to grab one. Boy reassures MC he'll try not to hurt him, but Ains warns injuries are inevitable. The arrogant kid warns him to watch out, or he'll lose his other hand. The main character agrees, sadly saying he's horrified, angering his opponent. Host signals Fuldum to ready, then starts. Ains's foe lifts his sword. He dodges the massive blade and stares him down. He strikes, the guy dodges, and his follow-up misses Ains. Girl thinks Ains struggles, but guy says he dodges every attack with minimal effort, likely just wearing him down. The enemy admits he's impressed, but warns there will be no mercy. He wields a two-handed sword with one hand, stunning the glasses guy and even Ains himself. He knows offensive spells are forbidden, but magic remains active, so he attacks. Opponent shoves Ains, slamming him into the wall. Ains's friends watch in awe, cheering for him and his rival. The boy faces him knowing he held back, otherwise his punch would have shattered bones. He got lucky. He stands up explaining magic reinforcement saved him. A second later and he'd be dead. The main character tells the enemy, no choice, prepare, he's attacking. Stunned by the reflected sunlight, the boy freezes as Ains appears and strikes. He says he has enough fencing skills, but he's no noble knight. An angry guy attacks and misses, while the MC watches in total confusion. He thinks it's over, but the enemy yells it's a dream, then suddenly attacks. Glasses is stunned. He fumes over that weird angle, then his blade snaps. Pressed against Kira, a hyped Rika watches wide-eyed, shouting her praise for the sword. Harold watched the duel tensely, but Darius felt relief, seeing swift, inevitable victory. Suddenly Tara stopped, then with a deafening clang slammed his massive weapon onto his opponent's thin blade, instantly splitting it. The swordsman looked worried, warning that they were in serious danger. Then, aiming his only weapon at defenseless Ains, the man declared his superiority and victory. Suddenly the fighter's sword shattered into pieces. His target didn't even flinch, watching the weapon crumble with total calm. Raga and friends stared speechless, mouths agape at what they saw. Even the judge was terrified by this sudden twist. Fear seized Daria, recoiling in the chair. Stunned, Tarsh squeezed his empty hand, his massive sword completely gone. The mage's eye narrowed, calmly stating he'd focused immense magic, blasting its shockwave into the enemy's weapon, though compressing that power took immense effort. Shaking with excitement, Harold raised his hand and ended the duel since both fighters were disarmed. His Highness declared a draw. Darius nearly exploded with rage while the crowd watched in tense silence. Back in Night City's twilight, admiring Rieka kept asking Ains if he saw Darius and Taurus's faces during results, calling the scene unparalleled. Grinning wide, she declared that despite the official draw, she was the real winner. Annoyed but grinning, she stared down the silent servant ahead. The girl fidgeted nervously as the man, oblivious, walked on. Rika burst into tears, begging for forgiveness for her fiery temper and the trouble she caused. Surprised by her words, he quickly assured her nothing terrible happened, and he bore her no ill will. House lights flickered on, piercing the dark street as the companions kept talking. The agitated lady explained her anxiety. The boy's stubborn silence worried her. The servant quickly apologized, lost in thought, so Reka immediately asked what he thought. Ains pondered the tough duel, recalling the guy's earlier words. Tarich was an imperial-level swordsman, expertly mixing sword and magic. She stunned her opponent used magic, but the MC claims Tarish even outclasses Sophia. Smirking, he notes that if this guy is just a swordsman, higher-ranked rulers must be monsters. The smiling servant admitted his intrigue. He'd never imagined magic and fencing combined so uniquely and effectively. Rieka stared into his eyes wide-eyed, completely confused. Fear gripped the girl as she doubted he was even human. Walking the night street, the boy griped about the academy's level, but Reika, his follower, laughed, saying he was too outstanding and instantly dispelling his doubts. Ains had met the king. Now in his luxurious chambers, a mysterious woman loudly demanded preparedness from everyone, even the servants. She gripped the glass as sinister smoke rose and it dissolved, her calm voice hinting they all knew about the coming threat. She fawningly warned him nothing terrifies more than an awakened deity, and Einstein's sarcastic smile flashed in her mind. The monarch stayed stone-faced and silent while Harold panicked, as a stocky man crossed his arms and asked if a deadly curse was coming. The alluring, emotionless woman coldly stated his magic disgusted her, adding if he truly meant to destroy the country, few could stop him. The king recalled Ains's oath with total admiration. The young man added Ain's threat wasn't all. Princess Kuresh's academy exit reasons could leak, sparking major Magic Academy issues. A third advisor then warned not to underestimate Kansas Brandy's influence. Arms crossed, the woman analyzes the situation. Brandy wants teamwork, but Ans is the real boss. Sophia's hints reveal the Silver Knight already knows the mage's secret identity. Double check A. His Highness couldn't grasp why a divine main character needed Brandy's help. Harold vowed to watch Kersha and Ains during his final academy year, and the king agreed. A cautious knock broke the silence, pulling the monarch from his dark thoughts. As a servant reminded him the kingdom's financial meeting was starting, and the old king promised to come quickly. As the king turned to say goodbye, she coldly snapped that his plans didn't matter, but hitting her was his biggest mistake. Eyes narrowed, she warned, one more time, no mercy. Remembering her words, the anxious king promised to listen. Days later at the castle. Beside the castle towers sits a modest two-story stone building. Barred doors, armed guards, and a reception window screamed prison. Past the first grate, massive locked doors loomed with a tiny observation window. In his cell, a man sat shackled by heavy logs, grumbling about soul-crushing boredom. He smirked at the rookie guards. They were so useless he could spend eternity here without a care. Suddenly, the prisoner heard massive doors creak open, then smiled defiantly at the newcomers, declaring he'd say nothing until they brought him a juicy steak and good alcohol. A woman in a wide hat stepped through the door, shocked the prisoner survived. The prisoner snarled, "Who are you and why are you here?" The maid at the door warned time was running out, but the hatted woman just smiled at Morin, saying she understood. The slave saw the woman, surprised, an indecent smile spreading as he crudely laughed, asking if this was his strange reward for torture. As she approached, the man cheered that his request was finally granted. Then Lee stunned the prisoner by sitting midair on an invisible chair. He paused, then with sudden weariness asked if his guest was a witch. Sitting calmly, she revealed two reasons for her visit. First, she wanted the original book. The prisoner's head snapped up in alarm. Lisa Lott explained the book's too dangerous, find it fast. She warned the prisoner wastes time hiding anything bound by magic. The man listened in deadly silence. He asked if the book put her in danger. She coldly refused she'd read similar. The prisoner looked at her with greater concern. Recalling Ein's chilling smile, the prisoner panicked, realizing Lisa Lott was just as deadly. With a playful smile, the girl made it clear she wouldn't use force for answers, but had one question. He turned serious and forced himself to spill everything he knew. The lady smiled, calming the prisoner and assuring him she wouldn't force answers. Just as he relaxed, a blur slammed into his shackled hands. He groaned, eyes widening in shock. The right hand's index finger was gone, replaced by a neat charred wound. Her face twisted in rage as Aunt Lee demanded where the slave got the original book and why her copy was missing pages. Shocked and sweating, the prisoner didn't understand, but the woman took his silence as a challenge to increase pressure. Looking down, the tormentor mocked surprise, asking if he'd forgotten how to talk. His guest reminded him another finger became a bloody stump. The prisoner convulsed in pain and screamed. Sobbing and moaning, he begged her to stop and swore he understood. Trembling in agony, the prisoner gasped to Lisa that the book was just a copy of Navia's original. The stone-faced woman demanded continuation now. The slave bowed in silence, shaking uncontrollably from lingering pain and fear. Refusing to wait, the woman's calm, terrifying smile suggested he continue, and her quiet words instantly made his piercing screams echo through the prison. With 4 fingers gone, the prisoner finally choked out the truth. The cursed book was split into pieces, and his old comrades guarded only one fragment as a sanctuary. Lisa confirmed they meant Aurelius, but the prisoner screamed for her to leave, his time was up. The woman smiled, knowing the prisoner meant Marin, and told him to forget time. The woman explained their cell time was a mere moment for the outside world. Confused, he stared at his tormentor as the horror sank in. She was freezing time itself. He stood astonished, yelling it was impossible. Time-stop magic was a myth, centuries of wizards failed. The prisoner screamed shameless lies. Lisa yawned, reminding him she never said she used magic. Screaming hysterically in the desert, the woman smiled, explaining her witchcraft. The news stunned the prisoner into silence. Shocked, the servant recalled Aintz's divine hand spell from their last encounter. The guest then rose from her invisible chair, asking what he'd seen. Hearing about Aintz's right hand, she gave. She nears the shaking captive and slides an object over his shackles, triggering acceleration of the flow. His right wrist burst into bright, consuming flames, and he screamed like never before, tears of pain and horror streaming down his face. Grinning, the executioner asked how it felt, explaining the spell accelerates time so she can savor his agony. Suddenly, his charred hand snapped free from the chains. Lisa Lott grins wickedly, telling him the exit is left, then up. Black liquid and foam spilled from his mouth as the prisoner hoarsely asked why she treated him this way. The woman introduced herself as Lizzle, adding she had another name. Lisa Lott claimed she was an immortal witch. The man groaned as pain racked his mangled body, but the executioner chuckled, mistaking the scream for pleasure and claiming he felt the same. Opening the fan, she touched her bare thigh and quietly said she was tired of anticipating death. Biting her lip, she unlocked her flow acceleration and blasted him with its full power. The prison stood still in the dark night, showing no signs of the horror in one cell. Lisa stepped out and apologized to her waiting maid. Maureen was baffled. To her, Lisa had just entered. The witch laughed off her mistake, nearly letting a secret slip. Lisa declared her business done, time to return, pondering the prisoner's sacred relic tale. Her maid nodded following, but Marion stopped at the cell door, overwhelmed by curiosity. She squinted through the bars to see what happened inside. Lisa Lott kept talking, wondering how much the prisoner knew. She smirked. It was simple. In the cell's pitch-black gloom, a hunched man's true state remained hidden. Rieka and Ains returned to their Kansas estate. Her father, thrilled to see her, immediately asked about her academy exam. Brandy Kansas shifted focus, ordering her maid to prep dinner and refresh after the long day. The girl smiled at the parents' reaction, while the MC admired the warm family scene. Suddenly, another figure approached from the hall, greeting him. Sophia greeted the young man with a sincere smile. The magician announced his return, and the table was soon packed with food. Reika animatedly recounted her exam, bright gestures revealing Im's lessons that stunned teachers. Liv bustled among guests, and her proud father called her a good girl. The girl excitedly bragged about the hero's strength in the duel, claiming they taught that servant a lesson, but Liv hated her cruel methods. Hearing of the duel, Sophia was shocked the young man fought a fencing master. Sipping his drink, the man confirmed Raker's story. From the house, cheerful talk and laughter echoed. As the coffee cooled, Brandy thanked Ains. He mentioned exam results were still days away and asked what the young man planned to do. Sipping cold coffee, the young man replied he didn't know, lost in thought. Facing the family head, the hero remembered the king's throne and its terrifying aura. He wanted to investigate but stopped mid-sentence. Kansas confirmed he'd personally get the info from His Majesty if he waited. The young man smiled, said no rush, then shared his next day's plans. Ainz explored most of the kingdom's center. Tomorrow, he plans to explore the western outskirts. The aristocrat nodded, warning that the west is a trade hub. Stay sharp. Sophia stands and demands a walk. The shocked MC asks Reika to join, but she refuses, citing her meeting with Princess Kurashia tomorrow. The young man frowned, disappointed they'd only go with Sophia. This troubled him. Sophia, however, beamed, assuring him she'd protect her master from any threat, making the boy ironically realize most threats came from her. With tomorrow's plans set, Ains stood up and headed off to rest. The family head kindly let him go. The maid bowed as Brandy and the MC said goodnight, stepping into the hall while the girls stayed at the table. Watch them closely and wait until the heavy oak doors close. She turned to Sophia with a grin, dying to see what her friend bought in the city today. Sophia awkwardly bowed, profusely thanking for the purchases, but Reika waved her off, saying there was no need. Grinning, she said she couldn't wait for tomorrow. Over Kansas, announcing a new day. Morning sun hit Ains's face as he slept. Then a quiet, insistent knock came, followed by an immediate apology. The attendant warned that breakfast was ending soon, but the sleeping man just groaned in annoyance. MC rushed down the hall with his lists, apologizing for oversleeping and asking about breakfast. The maid said Kansas and Rieka were gone, but Sophia was still waiting for him in the dining room. Embarrassed, she added the gentleman would get a pleasant surprise with breakfast. His mismatched eyes questioned her. The maid opened the door for Anna. He followed with a smile, greeted Sophia, and apologized for the wait. Before him stood a different Sophia. Nervously touching her dress, she shyly greeted him, looking beautiful in a new elegant dress, a headband emphasizing her loose, wavy hair. The guy was stunned by her bizarre new look. He involuntarily gripped a chair, stunning Sophia, who felt embarrassed she looked strange, but he quickly assured her the dress suited her incredibly well. Ainz called her stunning, like a true lady. Blushing, she asked to leave her sword behind to save the outfit, and Ainz agreed since it was just a casual walk. The boy noticed Sophia looked stunning out of her armor, and she blushed, surprised and embarrassed, mouth agape. Let's try another approach for the first part. The boy happily noticed that, to be honest, in. She beamed, agreed, and thanked him for the compliment. With his elegant girl, the young man began his journey. List saw them off, bowing and wishing them well. The capital's western district bustled with tightly packed houses, and in the distance, they spotted a small castle. Crowds swarmed the narrow alleys as carriages and wagons rumbled down the main roads. Ainz and Sophia loved the lively district, while every man nearby stopped to stare at the girls' stunning looks. Distracted, Sophia directly asked the gentleman why he truly came here, and he hesitated, searching for words. He smiled mysteriously, saying he needed to check something. Sophia asked for specifics and the boy just nodded. The hero recounted yesterday's academy exam. He saw many commoners, poor and untutored, yet their magic rivaled nobles. His team realized his goal. He wanted to know how commoner kids learned magic without teachers. Sophia guessed a secret instructor was nearby and the boy agreed. Ainz paused at the busy road. He was new, didn't know where to go, so he suggested they just walk and look around. They had time. Hours later, exhausted, he regretted not gathering info from Mr. Kansas before leaving. Girl saw his fatigue, asked to go back. Exhausted from the walk, the boy agreed. He scanned the streets and remembered a spot they missed, and Sophia knew exactly where he meant. They'd never seen the slums. The air was thick with gloom, filled with crooked shacks and hanging laundry. Trash piled up, no one cleaned. On the sidewalk, an old homeless man sat under a makeshift shack of rags and boards, glaring at passersby. Ainz studied the decaying ruins with interest, but the girl walked in silence, mourning the heavy atmosphere. A rough thieving shout demanded their goods. Sophia frowned, but the boy just blinked, looking bored. Approaching the noise, they found 5 thugs looming over a sobbing girl as she begged them to spare her last possession. Kneeling, the girl tearfully begged the bandits, but their leader silenced her, then coldly struck her stomach, declaring her life depended on their mercy. The men brutally kicked the girl as she curled up, yelling she was helpless and demanding everything she owned. Gasping through tears, she shielded her head from the relentless blows, crying out for help. Ignoring her desperate pleas, the man in his makeshift hut curled tighter in his rags as Ainz and Sophia passed. The girl spotted him adjusting his dirty hat and turning away, pretending he saw nothing. Sophia watched the gruesome spectacle heartbroken, while the hero stood nearby staring and Stony watched from afar. She couldn't stand the cruelty anymore and charged in to help. She charged the group, screaming at them to release the kid. The thugs froze, but their leader mocked her, asking if she was family and warning her to back off if she didn't want trouble. Sophia denied connection, but raged at their brutal beating of a child, blows that could kill her. The leader just cynically smiled, saying she didn't get their rules. They were collecting a fee for protecting this filth. The man laid out the harsh truth: no money, no patrons. These people live illegally, polluting the city. If the government finds them, it's prison. His group charges a small fee for silence and protection. The leader slammed another hard kick into her stomach. As she flew from pain, her grip failed, and the small medallion on its chain slipped from her hands, clinking on pavement. A henchman snatched the ornament, claiming it was theirs. The leader grunted, reminding them his brother was waiting. Sophia finally snapped, screaming for them to stop. She instinctively reached for her missing sword. A voice warned Sophia not to be stupid. She turned to find Ains, who mocked the boy's missing arm and sarcastically called him her lucky friend. He faced the girl, watching the bandits flee. One still clutched the medallion. The boy stared coldly, leaving Sophia speechless. She demanded if they'd just let those scoundrels go. He turned and replied, "No problem." His girlfriend shouted that the mage saw the cruelty, so the bandits couldn't escape with the loot. As the girl lay motionless, Ains calmly called it cruel, shocking Sophia, who wondered why they couldn't help her. The girl lay motionless. MC asked if Sophia would help. Sophia eagerly agreed, adding the gentleman agreed. He coldly refused to help, seeing no point. His girlfriend stood stunned by his heartless words. The man claimed helping her was pointless since the slums were full of misery, and the girl's voice trembled as she tried to argue. Having intervened, the wizard healed her wounds so she'd wake without pain, and summoned a black vial. He dripped the liquid into her mouth. She gasped awake as the pain vanished. Ains turned, not looking back, and left with his guards. Barely propped on her elbows, the little one weakly thanked them, but seeing them leave, she tearfully begged them to wait. Still on the ground, she begged for her mother's last memento. Hearing this, the girl instantly spun around. But the main character ordered Sophia not to interfere, follow him. He sized her up coldly, refused to help, and told her to find someone else. His girlfriend studied the child's face. Shocked tears flooded her eyes. Boy asked why she hadn't reclaimed her property. Sobbing, she tried to explain, but the wizard cut her off, saying she couldn't, then asked, risk their lives fighting dangerous bandits for her. Ains warned her that even if they return the jewelry, the girl hasn't considered what happens to her and the medallion once they leave. The MC said once they leave, someone would just steal her trinket again, making their help pointless. Sophia remembered Lit, the boy the master saved. The mage replied Lit was different. He craved power to change his life, not pity. He glared at the child. This girl refused change, and he wouldn't thoughtlessly help mere rats. Biting her lip, she realized Ains had finally crossed the line. The girl sobbed, begging for a chance to change, then fell again, sobbing inconsolably. Suddenly, the main character got interested, recalling the treasure the robbers and girl mentioned, deeply disappointing Sophia behind him. The girl suspected it was a relic, but the wizard was clueless. His girlfriend explained items like a sword, pendant, or book create magic, usually wielded by kings and heroes. The boy asked for records, and Sophia agreed, certain they'd find info on First Prince and Saint relics. Ains noted the saint's relics, vaguely recalling he'd heard of them. The guide grinned, confirming only 2 people were ever recognized as saints in this territory. Sophia named the saints Mr. Ivan and Mrs. Silly, then suddenly cut off mid-sentence. After saying Ka and getting the name Silica, the girl suddenly realized with horror what she'd done. Awe struck her, she instinctively covered her mouth, eyes wide in fear. Ains glared with multicolored eyes, demanding their names again as Sophia froze, knowing she'd made a fatal mistake. Hero struck by lightning, unable to grasp Silica and Evan's death, rechecking Sophia's words. Visibly devastated, she struggled with the weight of her words but confirmed the truth. He demanded how long since they died. Sophia hesitated, her eyes darting in panic as she struggled to drop the next bombshell. The wizard, growing worried, demanded her answer. Shaken, the girl revealed the bitter truth. These saints died 2,000 years ago, leaving him completely stunned. Frozen and expressionless, he rethought the unimaginable numbers. Realization hit his multicolored eyes, and shock morphed into something new. Suddenly, the main character trembled, laughing hysterically, truly frightening Sophia. Facing the nervous girl, the guy laughed as everything clicked, shouting that 2,000 years had passed. Remembering the buildings, the wizard understood why everything changed. Ties and bow ties are the new trend. A megaphone in the hands of a man during an exam. The truth only left the boy with more questions. He suspected the forest distorted time. Ains realized he was cursed but didn't know who did it or when. Tears streamed from his eyes as he thought about the situation, only he knew this place. Sophia nervously apologized, admitting she waited until he was ready to avoid upsetting him. Smiling through tears, the boy again asks his friend. Waving his hand, he cheered that the world was finally colorful. Aints vowed to master this magic as the girl watched in shock. Horrified, she didn't get why the gentleman was happy. The girl turned and told the wizard her mother was a legendary sorceress. Despairing on the sidewalk, she only had memories left, wishing for magic but hesitating. The main character, hand still up, eyed the girl intrigued. The magician turned and asked her name. She froze, realizing he meant her. She calls herself Shyla. He turned to the girl, offered knowledge, surprising her. Sophia eyed him with interest as he swore by Ains Silvetes to fulfill his promise on one condition. Confused, Tisciala only asked a few questions. Ains asks what she'll do with magic. Shyla excitedly says she'll return her mother's pendant and force an apology. When Ains pushes for more, she finally admits she wants them to suffer just like she did. The wizard's eye gleamed white. With a sinister smile, he said she'd speak plainly now, for she understood everything. His gaze made her flinch and darken. She vowed to take their lives. Pleased, Ains granted her all the power she craved. Sophia interrupted, shouting for reconsideration, but the main character gestured her to stop. The young man glared at the girl and harshly ordered her not to disturb him while working, warning he wouldn't repeat it, which scared her. Sophia knelt and apologized loudly. Then the boy told Childs to keep asking what she'll do after defeating her tormentors. The girl replied she'd leave the thickets. The wizard repeated, when strong, everything draws to her, what would she do then? Frowning, the girl hesitantly agreed to help them. Ains refused to help those who never cared for her, while the vagabonds who once ignored her watched the scene. Shyla pondered as the main character stared, demanding what they did while her mother weakened. The reminder hit her like a knife. She despairingly remembered the slum dwellers always begging her mom for help, and she never refused. She only remembered trembling over her loved one, frozen in bed, realizing despite her mother's kindness, everyone abandoned her at her most crucial moment. Lips tight, he asked if she wanted to stay a worthless rat. The girl firmly objected, but then something about him clicked. Sheila felt him reading her heart. He turned and she finally knew why she needed magic. Suddenly they returned, shocking everyone, then realized Sophia was still here. Leaderless and cocky, the bandits mocked the mage's luck. One suggested killing him to claim the girl, making a swordless Sophia fume as they argued over who'd go first. Ains raises his cane. He slammed it down. Instantly ice covered the robbers, restricting their movements. Tangled in the ice like vines, they groaned under the weight. Astonished, the girls watched the boys shatter into thousands of crystals. One was just a hollow cloak with a dark void for a face, terrifying Sophia. The main character pressed on. The white-eyed wizard demanded answers. Shyla stood tall, vowing to destroy this place and the people who used her mother. Cruelly, the young man asked what the baby's mother wanted. Shyla explained she only wanted to kill the approaching rats. The girl confidently shouted her mother would want her to forgive and leave, but she wouldn't back down until she took their lives. The boy declared they were done, then unleashed divine hand. Ain touched Shyla's head, granting her the power she longed for as agreed. Instantly, Shyla felt power she'd never known, her eyes widening in surprise. The dress snapped up and Sophia hid behind her, head bowed. The boy pulled his hand off the sweaty baby. He asked if she got what she wanted and demanded she show her new strength. Shyla scowled, arms crossed. She finally spoke. Then the girl calmly clenched her fist, igniting the black flame. A black flame sparked near her chest, but she swiped it aside, trapping it in her palm. Shayla pushed it forward, fire erupted. Sophia recoiled in horror. The homeless screamed as they burned to ash, their mangled silhouettes visible through the smoke. She watched in horror. The gentleman turned, saying they'd handle the bandits, and she agreed. But Sophia was lost. Ains turned to Chiley, hoping for answers. The girl with the black flame tail confidently says she knows. He demanded to go there, vowing to end them today. Swordmaster replayed Ains's unexpected dodge. I remember screaming in that fight. He swung a two-handed weapon, but the MC easily parried it with a thin blade. Tarish brooded over the challenge. He issued the long-haired cripple. His face froze as his sword shattered against the enemy. He stared at his hand in shock, yelling, "What?" while Daria stood there defeated and speechless. Little aristocrat hissed, nervously biting his nail. Tarish fumed, refusing to let anyone in the kingdom outclass his divine art. The man clenched his fists, baffled by Ains's coldness, as if their duel was a game, while the main character casually tossed his broken blade aside. The broken sword hit the ground. The long-haired youth barely blinked, but his opponent froze, realizing this servant was no knight. Then, at the mansion, Darius ordered Tarish back to the room and left to report to his father. An aristocrat glances sideways at the mercenary. He trashed the swordsman as worthless, mocking how his father likely saw him as a fool. Darius threw his invincible claim back in his face and demanded a plan, while Teresh just stayed silent. The boy gave one last threat, "Fix this or lose your head," then angrily walked to his father. The swordsman silently watched him go. The man let out a heavy sigh. He slumped, cursing, as Torish declared he couldn't abandon the Sabas family. he had matters to resolve. He remembered they were spotted in the wild and wondered why. Briefly, the swordsman realized this could be a relic. Tarish wasn't sure, but they were worth a fortune. He had to have them. He cursed, slumping onto the bed and muttering, "What a hassle." He just wished things had gone right. Staring at the ceiling, Tarish craved a rematch using his powers and the relic. Remembering the cold eyes that held the blade, he felt fighting him again could achieve his goal. Darius, enraged to tears, burst in, demanding the mercenary fix everything. The young noble confronted Tarish, blaming the master for his father's scolding and warning him he wouldn't get away with it. Tarish turned serious, his mind fixed on the relic. This aroused him. Darius reached for her, but she was gone. The fighter explained his friend found her and they'd reunite tomorrow. The little aristocrat perked up, thinking this treasure would make his father forgive him. Darius shut the door with a smirk, reminding the mercenary his failure wasn't forgotten. Punishment was only delayed as the door creaked behind him. Taurus sighed, shocked by the boy's audacity, then stood. He slipped into the night, leaving the estate to claim the relic. The swordsman walked the abandoned city's sidewalk, windows lit the dark. He passed the loud, crowded tavern without a single glance. He pressed onward. Teresh tracked the voices to a house. Opening the door, the swordsman confidently strode in. Everyone welcomed him like a brother. The man greeted them, sat to his group's applause for their eldest's return. Inside, the building looked like a bar. They asked why he showed up. Crossing his arms, he mentioned trouble, and the boy's mood instantly soured. Tarish heard they found treasure, demanding details. A robber confirmed the rumors. He'd be taken tomorrow by high-paying nobles. The old man smiled, praising their work. He frowned, saying they needed to talk, then, palms rubbing excitedly, he revealed a reward. The swordsmith told them not to worry, promising she'd make them happy. He announced the celebration, guys cheered. Drunken shouts and laughter erupted from the house. Sunlight floods the building. Tarish's eyes cracked open. The man among bottles rubbed his nose, groaning about his headache. The swordsman looked up and saw others. They eyed the pendant at the table. The same relic. Tarish approached the table, noticing their heavy drinking. As the relic bandit greeted him good morning despite it being noon. He stood, letting the master inspect the jewel. The elder took the trinket, smiled at its ordinary look, doubting its value. They reveal relics produce infinite magic, unlike limited stones harvested from monsters. Tarish eyed the pendant. If true, it confirmed why magic thrived here. Staring into the dark gem, the swordsman felt an eerie power he couldn't explain. Yawning, he returned the relic, ordered it boxed, then napped. Holding the pendant, the bandit asked him if he was really going to sleep, with money on the line. The senior asked for the plan, so he explained selling the girl meant big money, but Tariq warned they couldn't get caught. The bandit promised fun if they finished fast, but the elder banned all alcohol. His comrades joked about his cruelty, laughing he'd make them work alone. Ainz jumped in, called it simple, and led them to coffee. His crew followed, but Sophia insisted they brew it extra strong. The band froze, bewildered why they were there. Tarish spun around, hyped. The swordsman stood, shocked by the mage's arrival. Ainz recognized yesterday's servant. Frowning, the young man apologized, revealing himself as Mage Ain't Silvataus. Gripping his heavy blade, Tarsh spat that magic was useless and their duel was pointless, roaring that today no one would win. His face twisted, furious at the swordsman. Shayla points to her mother's pendant. Ainz misses it at first, then his eyes lock on. A henchman gripped the ornament tight. Pendant swung in his impatiently clenched fists. Ainz smiled, admiring the relic. He told her to focus on her goal. Gearing up for battle, Chayla vowed to bring him back. Grindin, sword in hand, taunted, asking what she'd do with him. He lunged at the intruders, vowing to gut them and feed them to pigs. The girl cast the black flame spell. A black fireball materialized. She flung it at the enemy, engulfing him in black flames. He coughed and groaned, body convulsing in pain. The bandit burned alive, screaming. Tarsh and the others froze, shocked. The house was already engulfed in flames, leaving the crowd in total shock. Beam shot from blackened house. The robbers stood unscathed outside their burning house, facing 3 enemies. Gunmen didn't understand. The sword master tensely watched the spectacle he'd stumbled into. Smiling, Ainz asked Sophia to help Shiley if they didn't want her to die. He ordered her to stay close, refusing to let the young avenger take her. The girl looked exhausted, baffled by the behavior. Ignoring his shocked friend, he told the sword master he'd really gotten on his nerves yesterday. The sorcerer warned him, "Don't disturb Shayla, move aside." The fighter glared, furious. Ainz smiled, saying a new location helped him cope. The man smiled. Tarish snapped he'd do as he pleased as the MC stared him down. Sophia panicked, but Shayla hungered for revenge. The opponents withdrew back-to-back from the battlefield, creating space to maneuver. The duo split for battle as the gang fanned out, while Sophia guarded Chilo, sword ready. The girl found a weapon and offered to fight, but Chayla cut her off. As the men surrounded them, Chila stepped forward, insisting she'd handle them all alone. Two attackers drew blades, poised to strike. The little girl calmly declared only she could kill them. Sophia, half-turned, eyed the child admiringly. A bandit smirked, yelling they weren't afraid of fire magic. Their iron swords were strong. He lunged at Chila, mocking that her own flame would burn her because of his thefts. His overconfidence proved fatal. The moment his weapon neared the girl, it shattered, leaving her untouched. Distracted by his shattered sword, the attacker missed Nightflame coiling around his arm like a deadly snake. The little girl, icily calm, said her magic burns metal and flesh effortlessly, while the man with a charred, smoking hand groaned from unbearable pain. Drenched in sweat, he begged for mercy while staring at the charred bone sticking out of his shoulder, as the girl coldly noted her fire turns everything to ash. She glared at him, adding it burns beautifully in the eyes. Black fire erupted from the bandit's eyes as he let out a silent scream. He screamed, futilely rubbing his burning face with his sole hand, as Shiala watched his final convulsions. Sophia stared at the stage, horrified by the brutal sight. The men weren't inspired, they retreated in horror, their faces twisted with animal fear. The girl faced the horrified crowd, admitting she first felt no urge to kill, but now she relishes her change of heart. With a mad gaze, the messenger unleashed black fire from her palm, shouting her flame would consume them all. Across the field, a different duel erupts. Ainz smirked, reminding the master they fought yesterday, and he clearly lost. Tarsh was annoyed that the magician wouldn't stop talking. The man believed defeating this mysterious youth would achieve his goal. The hero extended his hand, apologized, and warned, this duel isn't just fencing. He cast a silent time slow, instantly freezing the enemy in place. Paralyzed in horror, the fighter watched Ainz approach. The mage explained his spell dulls time, lamenting true time-stop magic doesn't exist here. As he spoke, Ainz pulled a blade from thin air. Tapping his crutch, Ainz approached the frozen Tarish, unsure if it would even sense the final blow. The swordsman bound by magic stood motionless. The young man crept closer, inexorably closing in. Knowing he'd live, he let out a miserable sigh. The wizard pressed his blade to Tarsh's throat, curiously asking if that was all. Suddenly, Tarsky trembled. The fighter gritted his teeth, forcing his will against the magic, and barely moved again. Ainz was stunned by this sudden twist. Teresh raised his greatsword, charged the enemy, shouting their magic was annoying, as the hero skillfully dodged the deadly blow. Landing safely, the shocked mage watched the swordsman gasp for air, drenched in sweat. The young man noted his opponent had not only physical strength, but also a strong mind. The fighter unleashed his signature divine power. A radiant aura enveloped him, instantly granting him incredible strength and speed. With this power, he lunged at the enemy, sword raised to strike. Calmly tracking the fall, he slammed his wooden crutch into the ground with all his might. From the blow, a huge boulder roared beneath his feet. Then, at the wizard's command, rushed at the flying Tarish. The swordmaster sliced the obstacle, mocking the wizard's trash magic, but the wizard just yawned and slammed his staff again. That gesture triggered a massive strike. Dozens of sharp stones burst from the ground, swarming Tarish from all sides. He screamed desperately, swinging his sword with both hands, chopping stone after stone, shards flying everywhere. The man finally split the last, largest boulder. Cursing the mage's dirty tricks, he launched a brutal counterattack to catch his elusive foe. Ainz gracefully dodged the deadly blade again, then snapped his fingers. Burning crystals rained down like comets, slamming into the exhausted Tarish while the hero leaped back to watch the blast. Tarish looked up, growing worried by the new threat's true scale. Exhausted, he roared and sliced the crystals, but shards still shredded his arms as the mage prepped a deadlier spell. He pulled another blade from the glowing tube. Teeth clenched in rage, the fighter rasps the secret to his confidence. He declared divine power perfect against mages, restored its power, then leaped at Ainz, sword blazing with the spell, but Ainz anticipated and parried. The swordsman froze, stunned, his crushing blow was easily deflected. The impact sent his foe flying as Ainn spun, leveling a new blade at Tarish. Cursing, he clutched his wounded arm. He excitedly realized this divine power was unusual magic, and the Empire held more interesting spells like it. With mad curiosity and a mysterious smile, he had to study them all, then activated the spell. Ainz triggers Shadow Actor, spinning for a surprise strike as a phantom hand emerges with a second blade to hit in perfect unison. The swordsman was surprised, recognizing this movement as the ultimate divine art, 3 movements. Shattering the phantom blade with a heavy strike, the warrior roared in fury, demanding to know who taught the boy these secret sword arts. The man furiously demanded who taught him that cursed technique. Enraged and confused, he dropped his guard, and the boy's sword sliced his torso, leaving him deeply wounded. Blood sprayed from Tarsh's leg and waist as he retreated, groaning but miraculously staying on his feet. As the sword master assessed his damage, Ainn slipped his sword into a pocket dimension, making the main character realize Imperials called these advanced techniques divine arts. Ains nonchalantly slammed his cane, summoning a sword that stabbed into the earth as the injured fighter braced for impact. The opponent reeled in shock. This mysterious youth wielded immense magic and divine power, leaving him no idea who he was or where he came from. Bitter and broken, Tarish demanded to know how Aints mastered divine techniques, while he failed despite all his efforts. The main character smiled, contemplating the Empire despises magic and values only swordsmanship. The sword master sadly smiled, realizing mages use divine arts but he can't, then couldn't finish his bitter thought. Trembling in defeat, he admitted his weak divine arts saved his enemy, forcing him to flee the Empire for magic. But after failing again, he's back to the only thing he knows, the sword. Tarish knelt before the wizard, admitting defeat and knowing resistance was futile. Smiling, the young man noted the swordsman's struggle and asked his name. Tarish smirked bitterly, introduced himself, and said his name wouldn't be remembered. The boy declared himself Ains Silvetus, a sorcerer, not just a wizard, but the swordsman, tired of talk, demanded a quick end. Intrigued, the boy spared his foe. The hero sensed his fear of losing his humanity, but the man smiled bitterly, knowing this wizard wasn't human. Suddenly, Aints broke the seal. He cast the cursed spell. His right eye instantly plunged into dark gloom, a white dot at its core. Aints glared straight into the fallen warrior's soul. Tarisha froze in fear at the anomaly. The young man's head tilted unnaturally at the kneeling man, eyeing him with predatory interest, and the sword master, overwhelmed and confused, didn't know what was happening. After a quick clash, he aimed his new blade and ordered the foe to talk. The hypnotized warrior stood ready, and the boy instantly triggered his silent mirror magic. Stunned, Tarish saw three identical Ainu silhouettes materialize, ready to fight. His lip bled as he recognized the legendary triple step. Laughing hysterically, he realized he was being mocked. The middle Ain warned that divine art secrets cost honest answers to his questions. Three illusions swarmed Tarsh, promising knowledge. He parried a strike with a clang, deflecting phantom attacks with his heavy two-handed weapon, knowing he couldn't win, but an irrational need drove him on. Wild with excitement, Tarish raised his blade to strike, shouting, "This is fun." Sophia instinctively gripped her sword for the first time, watching the scene in pure horror. Before her stood young butcher Shylock, black flames in hand, amidst smoldering bandit remains. Shyla crushed a charred skull frozen in a scream, stepping over it without a second glance. Comrades' bodies smoldered, only two bandits remained, pushed from the fire. They shook and begged, but she calmly stepped over their friends' charred remains, ignoring the crunch underfoot. With mad black eyes, she monotonously said they were the last ones left. Two lucky survivors shook, one sobbing uncontrollably. The man held the relic all along. Sophia panicked, remembering Aints' orders. Stay by Shyla and never let her touch that cursed pendant. She aimed at the enemy. He begged for mercy through tears. She coldly asked if they deserved pity. She raised her hand, black smoke burst, impaling the man. She asked if they spared her when she begged. Sophia watched silently from behind. As his body blackened, he clawed his throat and skin until blood flowed. Minutes later, the man died. Nail scratches marked his neck as his body turned black and hit the floor, staining the ground while his stunned companion watched, sword in hand. Shiley's one enemy left. Shocked, the man's sword aimed at the girl. He knelt, offering an interesting object. The man knelt and offered Shyla the pendant, but she stared back with zero emotion. She swept her hand, black energy surged, and the kneeling man absorbed it, his body turning to stone. He morphed into a solid black block, head fusing into his arms while still gripping the object as she reached out. Sophia approached, telling her to stop. Determined, she gripped a sword. The girl hadn't even moved. Shocked, Sophia confronted her. Sophia strictly warned her not to touch the pendant, so Shyla demanded to know why. The girl just wanted to answer her question when the blonde asked if she'd stand in her way and was her enemy. Sophia knew talking was useless. Silent, she gripped her sword and aimed it at her friend. She told Shyla she didn't want to kill her, but the girl mocked her for thinking she could. She turned away but smiled, warning if she became her enemy, she'd burn her. Seeing the girl reach for the pendant, Shyla calmed her, assuring the black flame would protect her from death, then took the object. Everything went wrong. When she grabbed the pendant, it erupted in a blinding light, leaving her stunned. Her eyes widened in shock, then she understood. Tears welled as she whispered, "It finally happened," before sobbing loudly. Tears streamed as she stared at the pendant, her life fading as fear froze her in place. Suddenly, a giant hand materialized in the sky, its owner accusing the girl of breaking world law, sealing and condemning her, then executing the sentence. She stood before him holding the pendant when a spear shot from his hand and impaled her instantly. Sophia sensed trouble. She called the girl's name, but she didn't react, just collapsed. She rushed to the blonde, catching her just in time, but as she asked what happened, the girl went limp and died. Sophia clutched her friend, demanding answers, as the wounded man lay nearby and her sword rested beside them. The MC arrives and apologizes for the delay. He senses trouble as Sophia says sorry, clutching Chyla tight. Ainz eyed the painting and pendant, telling the girl it wasn't her fault. This was bound to happen. Only wizards avoid punishment, he claimed. The divine seal engulfed Chyla. He lifted the pendant, examining it. Sophia asked if he knew. He said no, but explained the blonde first mastered black flame. Magic flows from desire, but no one's craved black flames like this. The price is steep, and he still hasn't mastered it. He declared Chyla paid the price. It was inevitable. Sophia froze, speechless. She looked up, cried his name through tears, and shattered into pieces that flew into the sky. Ainz said universal lawbreakers can't be mourned. Their bodies become light shards dissolving into space. He calls it a decent death, but Sophia reaches out, drawn by their strange appearance. Ainz sadly smiled at Chyla, saying the light would fade bad memories. He told the blonde she died with honor, wishing her a happy rebirth as Chyla shattered and vanished. Ainz watched them leave, then head down, told Sophia it was time to go back, visibly sad. She stood up and they locked eyes in silence. Sophia happily reported no magic schools for kids and suggested searching tomorrow, but he only smiled back. Sophia called today stressful and he agreed. She asked if the girl caused the fire. He said she was innocent. She noticed something, turned to speak, but he said Chyla, the girl from the depths, gave him the pendant. Sophia was shocked. He remembered her name and called her charming, but Ainz simply replied he never forgets a name. The girl asked if he was tired. Without turning, he said he was exhausted. Sophia suggested a walk before dinner, but her friends snapped, demanding she stay and learn to cook. He nervously looked away, admitting he'd forgotten someone. Shocked, the girl demanded what he meant. He forgot Tarish lay unconscious nearby, sword within reach. In the castle, a new day began as Lisa Lot ate, complaining about the morning's noise. The maid reported a fire in the shopping district. Tariq, Daraj's servant, found the slums in ruins. The girl knew it wasn't an accident, the blaze was too massive. The maid said witnesses saw black flames, and thought her mistress ate steaks and drank wine all morning. The girl asked who held such power, certain the wizard was hiding in the capital. Lisa Lat understood. Two men rushed through the castle hallway, one demanding they pick up the pace. Lizelot said if it was black flame, it was unusual. The maid asked what she meant, watching her pour another glass. Lazelot suspects a wizard, normal mages stand no chance. Lisa Lot turned to her servants, demanding the truth about Brandy's affairs. The maid said he'd go to the royal palace by day, likely delivering the relic, but Lee had her own thoughts. The door swings open and the maid turns to snap she's busy, but she's cut off instantly. The king stood at the door, apologizing to the lady and requesting a word. A slight smile softened his face. The maid gasped at the person at the door, hand flying to her mouth, then unbelievingly asked if it was him. She nearly knelt but bowed low, apologized, and he said it was fine. He dismissed the maid, and as she left, Lisa Lot turned to him, asking why he looked so confused. She offered to teach him how to treat women. He scoffed, said he didn't need it, then told her to cover up. She asked why he was angry. She only wanted his first time to go well. The king refused to let his son be with an old woman, so Lisa Lot asked if he had a death wish. The man asked to be first, questioning if the black flame was sorcery, not magic. He was dead serious. Lisa confirmed it was true but said not to worry, that mage was dead. Both men froze, the younger demanding, what? She warns the black flame is a forbidden wizard rule, and breaking it means certain death. The lady declared the wizard punished, ordered the men to sit and told them to leave Murin. The maid bowed and shut the door. Lisa Lout knows Ainsama has no such magic, nor his assistant. She says it's a new wizard, rare but possible, and the MC can likely do it too. Lizalot says the relic affects Black Flame's limits. Marquis Kansas brings them the relic. This is no coincidence. She confirmed Aints created a new wizard, and the king smiled, finally understanding everything. He asked why not call Ons directly, but he replied it wasn't worth it yet. Their captain wouldn't calm down easily. The king dismissed the wizard threat, shifting focus to a feud between House Sobai and House Brandy. Lisa smiled old ways again, then asked what happened. The king revealed the MC made House Sobai's Tarish his servant. Scratching his head, the man admitted he's just a burden. Liselot paused, asking if the boy really took another servant. The younger one claims Sophia first said she was his loyal servant, now Taurus too, so the Sobai family preps for court. The boy was confused why the MC made him his servant. The king just scratched his head, equally clueless. Lisa knew things were bad, her face showing the danger. She silenced them and demanded they listen. If they remember her words, commoner or country, it won't matter. She warned no one would survive the night, stunning the entire group. The king understood but asked how to explain it to his family. The girl fumed. She warned the king she'd silence the family if they didn't settle, then wrote a letter asking for his help. Lisa Lot would only sign the paper, her husband decided the rest. The king read the note, apologized, and thanked her for the help. Lizelet recalled her murder threat, asking to do it now, when the man ninja'd from her room, surprising her. She noted the king's speed, heard an apology, and instantly shouted Harold's name. He told him to watch Kersha, because if he fails her, she'll be caught in the eye of the storm. Harold got his task, left door closing as Marin returned. Lisa Lot returned to her and asked about the holy relic. The maid confirmed. Kings and heroes use these relics, but the brandy relic is unique. It generates infinite mana unlike any magic stone. Lisa Lot questioned the relic's power, but the maid had no answers. She suggested a legendary owner or divine will caused it, but the lady disagreed. Lisa said it's for those who left nothing. After death, their soul remains. Heroes trapped in darkness, greedy kings, blind rage, or blood-crazed people. They have beautiful names, but look closer and it's pure madness and cruelty. The maid panicked as Lisa Lot warned her. The relic's madness consumed him, so stay alert. Lisa Lot claims black flame means no crying. Sunlight flooded the castle, but moments later, clouds swallowed the sun and everything went dark. Liz sat at the table for ages, staring, thinking of a relic she'd heard, Ains's beginning. She wondered if he knew his books were the most vital relics, rumored to hold magic so potent anyone touching one went insane or died. Then Ms. Liselot slipped off her dress, standing completely naked. She wondered what Ains saw on the road, the madness haunting him, and how he wanted this story to end. Still naked, it moved to bed and carefully sat. Methamlis huddled in her blankets, waiting for her ruler to arrive. Earlier, the main character and allies stood by Tarsh's bandaged bed. Two strangers were shocked to see him and asked if he really served Darius Subai. Ains confirmed it. The main character demanded he serve him. Everyone questioned his meaning, having never heard such a thing and doubting his sanity. Sophia was the most surprised. Ains made his choice. Lord Brandy asked if the Subis knew, but Ains hadn't told them, hoping the man would settle it. He closed his eyes and told Kansas he knew the exact time. Kansas was surprised. Silence fell as Kansas processed the truth. He finally knew everything. Ains shuns politics. He'd exploit the man without caring, but first he has other things to sort. He declared no interference. Kansas knew this was a clear threat. Anyone in his way would get no mercy. He's evil, but in the right dose, deadly poison becomes medicine. Knowing he couldn't mess up, the man declared Ains his guest and stepped in to help. He thanked him and gave Sophia a new student. Sophia protested that the boy attacked her teacher, but though furious, she couldn't disobey. Kansas feared the Silvatus wizard used their family as tools. Refuse, he'd instantly kill them. Watching the hero and girls bicker, he knew exactly why he was the god of evil. Tarsh awoke in new clothes. The MC said it went well, thanking everyone. Tarsh asked why he was humiliated. Ains laughed until he cried, telling Tarsh it didn't suit him, and Sophia agreed it was terrible. MC changed his mind, claimed everything was fine, but he couldn't say it calmly, laughing, so Tarsh demanded he choose. Laugh or lie. He snapped at Sophia. Stunned, she asked what he meant, but he barked at her to shut up and stop being annoying. Teresh called his village people friendly but annoying. Sophia tolerated his words for Ains, who just laughed. At the Sobai estate, Darius enters the study as his father calls his name. The father asked about his servant, but as he blanked on the name, Darius stammered Torish. He confirmed his name, but served the son and the entire Sob family. He learns he must now serve the Brandy's family. They wouldn't tolerate such insolence, it'd cost their position, so he sues, going straight to his majesty. The father showed his son the paper, demanding to know why only the decree was returned. The son questioned him in shock. He announced the decree closed all Tirishi cases. If only the king signed it, he'd appeal. Darius shook with terror. Dad reveals the decree is signed by Mrs. Lee Lot. He asks if his son understands the gravity, and the boy nervously nods. The man fumed how a scoundrel stole their service, unpunished, then demanded Daria understand and respond. Darius confessed he disgraced the Sobai family. Terrified, he waited for an answer, but his father sighed, claiming he was wrong. The king, pressured by the Brandy family, abandoned the Sobi's home to save his kingdom. Closing the curtains, he asked his son about the threat and the Brandy house's new power. Father stood at the window, back to his son. He thinks it's Tarish. Darius asked if it was a holy relic, but the man called it the king's pathetic trinket. It was tied to Tarish, and he knew everything. The man mentioned Brandy's servant, then quickly corrected himself. He was the servant. Father looked at his son, said his name was Ains. Is that your name? He asked. Darius flinched. The man said the MC was so strong, he even dared strike Mrs. Liselot. He told his son, you were the first to see his strength. Father torched Tarish's decree, calling it a threat to the Brandys and admitting he'd underestimated them. The house head revealed the MC lured his servant for his potential, infuriating Darius. Father warned this broke the three families' balance, incinerating the letter in his hands. Darius, terrified, sensed the room shift. He pleaded his case to his father. He grabbed a bottle and asked his son if he knew he had many brothers. Darius replied no, his mother told him something different. His father said it was true. He pours a drink and reveals his brothers died young. The man asks why. Darius paused, weighing his words, then his eyes widened in shock, his body trembled, and he blamed the curse. His father laughed, confirming it was a damn curse. He approached the photo wall, declaring his family lives forever as his face twisted, and his eyes turned pitch black. Confused and panicked, Darius trembled, collapsing to the floor as the man turned away. The father sipped his drink, then looked at the photos and laughed. Their eyes looked crazy. Darius was terrified. Sobbing on the ground, a man called his name and spoke about his mother's pregnancy. The father leaned down, asking if the child died from the Cyrillic letter 456 curse. Countless eyes seemed to watch from behind him. At the Brandy estate, Kansas tells Ains the Turkish case is closed. Kansas feels lucky it ended peacefully, and a smiling Ains thanks him. The boy told Tarish to be grateful, his good life was all thanks to him. Tarish countered, content with the Sabas family's crumbs. Sophia raged. Kansas told Ains results are coming soon, so keep helping Rita and stay her servant. Recalling the past, she said the review proved she didn't need his help. Ains hesitated until he saw the curriculum, but Reika mentioning the delicious food hooked him. He perked up instantly, asking if it was true. Kansas confirmed the food was amazing as a student. Aristocrats' kids frequented it, keeping standards sky high. Spots vanished in seconds. Drooling, he took a breath and admitted he was hooked. He had to get there. Ains wanted to learn how students grasp magic basics, seeking direct talks, but only met Tarish, whom Sophia called a stray dog. Laughing, he said he'd been waiting for this fight and agreed to take Riku to the academy. Kansas sighed in relief. Reika smiled slightly, saying she could command Ains again. MC fumed while Rika laughed. Tarish asked if they were servants of a servant, but Sophia mocked him, calling him just a student of a servant's servant. Everyone roared. Elsewhere, a knock sounds. Commander lets in his subordinate, apologizing for the disturbance. Without looking up from his paperwork, the man asked the newcomer what was happening. Subordinate reports Sophia's letter. Commander immediately perks up, asks really Sophia, demands why she waited so long, then thanks and dismisses him. Reaching for the letter, his arm throbbed. He'd been buried in paperwork all day and needed a break. Sophia's report revealed the MC learned the truth. He thought Ainsama knew everything. The MC teamed up with Marquis Brandy, catching the commander off guard. Ainsama was always distant. He didn't expect him to open up easily, but this affected him. Immortal Witch originals spawned endless copies. Kingdom magic is outpacing the Empire, and the hero just located more originals. Brandy's alliance with Ains rockets his political power, shifting the balance. The commander weighed the sub-I head's next move, hoping he wouldn't declare war on Lord Ains. The commander laughed, realizing many events were coming. He pictured the royals, Immortal Witch Lisa Lat, and the sub-I family's hidden darkness. He introduced powerful wizard Ain Silvatus, now allied with the Brandy family. They're now the kingdom's three most powerful forces. The commander realized a massive storm was about to swallow the kingdom. As night fell, magical energy swirled over the Cyrillic letter 456 mansion, white like glass shards. Darius sat at the table, head in hands, repeating the same question over and over. His father taught him life was precious, he never killed needlessly, but with his mother pregnant he had to act. His face twisted inhumanly as he asked if Darius really believed the Sobi curse killed the child. Trembling, the boy clasped his hands, realizing his father was serious. A strange girl asks if he's cold, sneaking up so quietly he jumps in shock. A short, dark-haired girl offered him hot tea. He didn't look, refused, then finally agreed. Darius crossed his arms, angrily demanding no cheap gifts, it must suit him. She closed her eyes and submitted, but compared to the Sobi family's special tea, everything else felt cheap. She warned he'd notice the difference instantly while pouring tea. Darius watched her blankly, his nerves on edge. Pouring water, the girl muttered, "It's just water," reassuring herself. Spreading her arms with a gentle smile, she claims even their water is special while holding a glass of tea. Darius hesitated, eyed the glass, gulped it down, exhaled, then spoke. He stared her down and asked what she wanted. If she was invited, this was serious. The girl heard the guy recently moved to another family, smiling slightly. Shocked she knew, Darius flinched and hesitated before admitting she was right. He hated the situation. The boy hung his head hand over face, claiming his father hated him for this, but the girl denied it. Darius snapped his head up, eyeing her skeptically and asking what she meant. She asked why he'd ditch a powerful family, find his motive, and bringing him back is easy. Darius declared it Tarsai's fault, a massive weight lifting from him. She agreed they'd uncover Terry's betrayal, forcing him to return. The stranger declared everything would change, making Darius flinch in shock. The boy jumped up, leaned on the table, clenched a fist, and declared they'd fix everything while the girl watched in silence. Darius agreed, then questioned her partnership, asking what she stood to gain and her true goal. She joyfully smiled, saying she didn't think he was so observant. Darius puffed his chest and agreed, letting her proceed as the stranger thanked him. He hoped she wouldn't fail him, then remembered he'd never heard her name. She only smiled. She looked down, eyes darkening. She stood, hand on her heart, and asked to introduce herself. The girl bowed her head before him and introduced herself as a new star, the great sorceress Rubbermer. At the Brendy mansion, Sophia duels with lethal intensity, both fighters clashing like it's their last stand. Swords clashed repeatedly, but every blow was parried, neither landing a single hit. The main character watched, enjoying the fight. Behind him, Reika and her maid watched, a mug in hand. Minutes later, the fight ended. Sophia's hand trembled. She expected this from the Sword King. His strikes were precise and swift. She respected her opponent despite her exhaustion. Exhausted, Tarish admitted she was the kingdom's best and raised his sword to keep fighting. Sophia declared, "I'm Ainsam's right hand for a reason," then charged back into battle. Screaming she'd never yield, she launched a barrage Tarish couldn't parry, forcing him to curse her insanity. He smiled, realizing their constant arguing meant they were finally friends. Sophia asked when he'd finished with Tars, but Ains had no idea what she meant. The girl glared furiously, asking if he wanted her place. He instantly denied it. Ains grinned, explaining the boy's magic depends on his level, shocking Sophia and Tarish. He explained Tarish used the Empire's ranking system, not theirs, and both listened intently. Ains noted the boy struggled to grasp magic's principles. Tarsha agreed, but his confusion over the divine arts clearly frustrated him. He explained magic and fencing differ. Swordsmen charge, mages hang back. Sophia reveals their strategy. Swordsmen charge the front, mages protect from all angles. He asks what if the swordsman could use magic, just as a mana cluster forms in his hand. Ain raised his hand, and a powerful burst of magic shot out, flying past the girl. Sophia froze at his effortless snap. Tarish watched stone-faced, and Reich knew he hadn't changed a bit. He declared mastering silent magic was crucial, then gravely shared its true nature. Ains teaches the basics, but everyone learns differently, so Tarish won't master magic fast. Sophia smiled, understanding she was a true genius, but the main character replied no, which Sophia found cruel. Tarsh cut in, eyes closed, calmly declaring himself a master of this art. Eyes open, he tensed, vowing to deal with that scoundrel soon. Ain mentioned the man had matters to attend to, but he refused to discuss them. Staring him down, the MC ignored his past and goals, leaving him and Sophia stunned. He smirked, eyes narrowing, saying if a skilled knight joined him, he'd be satisfied. Night falls and House Head Brandy, Kansas, announces the entrance exam results drop tomorrow. During dinner, the leader repeated it finally happened, then asked the main character to go investigate mid-meal. Ain knew Reika passed, so she offered to buy him anything in the cafeteria if he hung out. Hero's eyes gleamed, promising his help. Sophia got money from the commander to treat him, but she clearly wasn't happy. Ain admitted she was right, but Reika offered more. They'd go together next time, leaving the girl devastated. Reika called the maid Little Leaf, ordering her to wake the main character tomorrow using any methods. The maid agreed and bowed. The MC finished eating and stood up, Sophia following close behind. Reika promised they'd meet again, and the man called her by name. He shot her a serious look, asking her to stay longer, surprising even her. Kansas fell silent, closed his eyes, and claimed the king knew Ains's true identity, shocking Raku. She knew he acted that way for a reason. Her father interrupted, confirming she was right. The prince and prime minister also knew. The princess was kept in the dark, and Kansas suspected they were hiding the truth. The family head told Reika to stay friends with the princess, and she agreed with a smile. Raquel understood everything, assuring him she wouldn't endanger Kersha. Satisfied, the man declared all fine, dismissing her. She wished him good night as he left the living room. Einstein was dangerous even as a stranger, and Rieka's father had to understand. After that, the girl smiled, certain the prince would protect Kersha. The sun rose and Leif the maid woke Ains, telling him he's leaving with Lady Reika today. No movement, no sound from the bed. The girl paused, then called him again. He kept sleeping, mumbling a response without opening his eyes. Leif reminded him the gentleman promised Reika to the Magic Academy. Her tone demanded he rise. The MC still didn't react, just lying there mumbling nonsense. Leif felt she had no choice but to obey Reich. She told him she'd hidden something. She swore she had magic too, and she wasn't lying. He lunged onto the bed, ripped the covers off, and demanded to know if her magic was real. She denied trying to pique his interest, so he instantly stood, clearly displeased. He pulled the blanket back over, confessed lying was wrong, begged for another hour, and wished her good night. Saying she has no choice, the maid rushes Aints and yanks his blanket. She pulled it close, grabbed another sheet fast. She stripped the bed and tossed the blanket, leaving him in total shock. Maid asked what he'd say now, adding it was her special magic, the power of the maid. His admiring look made her blush, so he finally gave in and stood up. Later, a tearful Sophia asked why he was leaving again, but Tarish closed his eyes, replying it was too much trouble, he wouldn't go. MC rushed out the gates and apologized to Rika. She expected him to oversleep and noted her advice helped the maid. Ainz asked if she advised it, called her unfair, but Rika replied Leif at least got him out of bed. MC confirmed the magic was real and copied Leif's cool pose. Reika wanted to see, leaving the maid mortified. Ainsama dismissed the maid's embarrassment as impossible just as she announced they'd arrived. A huge building loomed as Rieka excitedly declared it the Academy of Magic, with crowds already swarming the results board. The girl went to check results, told him to wait. He agreed, noting the crowd. Someone called his name and wished him good morning, making him whip around toward the voice. The princess greeted him, asking if he'd accompany Lady Raku again, then Aints named them. The princess pouted, rejecting the title Madam. Aints apologized, explaining Tom wasn't used to manners after mocking the royals so much already. Kersha asked if he insulted the king and why. Zittel vowed to teach him manners, and Aints begged for mercy. He smiled, changed the subject, and asked to check the results. Princess replied she already checked. Zittel said Kersha was accepted right after the exam, so Aints asked why she was there. The princess smiled, claiming she just wanted to see her name on the leaderboard, but Aints didn't buy it. He saw two types of powerful people: those who flaunt it, acting superior, and others like Kansas or Reika who grasp power's responsibility. Thinking of the princess, the hero realized Kairsha was definitely the second type. Rieka rushed over, shouting the princess's name and thrilled to see her. Kershil greeted her. They held hands, the girl asking about their results and new class. Raker was in Class A and the girl cheered she was too. The girls hugged, smiles shining, then realized they're classmates. The girls cheer about meeting on this perfect day, and Dell welcomes the arriving Mrs. Reika. He gloated, claiming it was natural since he taught her. Then Rieka called them to lunch. Ainz told her to stop, but the princess's drooling joke had everyone laughing. Zadel loved the idea and asked to speak with Ainz. Seidel called His Majesty, requesting permission. At the princess's suggestion, they hit a restaurant. Soon, a royal feast of fish, meat, and drinks filled the table. Days flew by as the protagonist enjoyed delicious food and conversation. Inside the Brandy mansion, Reika heads downstairs and tells her dad she's heading out with a grin. Kansas wished her well, then turned to the hero, asking him to protect his daughter. He assured him. Sophia warned Ainz to stay sharp. Tarish hoped for peace to avoid more chaos, and the host agreed. MC and Reika neared the academy gates, Reika declaring her new life began now. Walking to the building, Ainz asked for classroom A. She knew the way, but suddenly he spotted something. He saw magical energy clumps floating everywhere. Their sheer number surprised him. Rekit turned back, saw Ainz lagging, and called his name. Ainz quickly apologized. He thought it was a magic academy, expecting magic traces everywhere as he followed the girl to the school. Rika burst into the classroom to find boys scattered everywhere in total chaos. MC asked for their seats. She checked the paper, then pointed them to the top. Ainz groaned at the endless stairs, but Rika snapped at him to stop whining. Climbing students noticed them, and one called friends for a closer look. They questioned if it was really Rick who aced the exams. Hearing about his silent magic left them in total shock. Boys shouted it was cool. The girl walked, remembering Ainz taught her everything so she couldn't be arrogant. Still, she felt pleased, a blush on her face. Rieka sits up and spots Kairusha, calling out joyfully as the princess smiles a warm good morning. Rieka says they sit together in class, and Kirshner calls them lucky as they hold hands and grin. Reika questioned the prince's business. The prince, sensing the gossip, sneezed. He asked his place but was told escorts must stand. Outraged, he asked if he couldn't even sit. Ein whined as his prosthetic legs started cracking, but Reika snapped at him to focus and stand by Zadel. MC complained he couldn't even sit, then asked his companion if he was okay, who replied he'd gotten used to it. Ein sighed, deciding to build his own chair. Zadel froze as the boy slammed his prosthetic leg into the floor. Then a huge throne materialized before everyone, making Zadel flinch. His friend in misfortune stood shocked. The princess blushed seeing him fight, and Rieka felt proud but knew they'd drawn too much attention. Ein sat on the throne, declaring it better. Zedel gasped at his action, and students instantly debated. Magic or a spell-less joke? Seidel suspected alchemy as the MC's strange skills kept him guessing, all behind a constant smile. The river, concerned by its escort's actions, wasn't surprised, and asked for a modest chair the princess admired. Blushing hard, she clasped her hands and thought of him while he finally relaxed for a nap.